Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the office hours, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker One Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub. Let's get to the office, shall we? Hello, my name is Paul. This is the AstroPub, and this is the office hours. This is a live stream that I do to Twitch and to YouTube at the same time every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific. No, not 3 p.m. Pacific. 6 p.m. 6 p.m. East or Pacific, 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about Star Citizen. So this is a live AMA. You'll notice if you're watching this after the fact, it's probably 3 to 4 hours long. So if you are watching this after the fact, or if you're watching this live and you're, working, doing something, put on your earphones, grab yourself something to drink, grab yourself something to eat. We'll be here for a while, talking a lot about Star Citizen news and updates and discussions in general. So we'll deviate from Star Citizen quite frequently. But chat, how y'all doing? Axis, Eric Jackson, hoping you go over the recent journalistic piece on Hurston by Squadron RPs as anti-Hurston abolitionists. Very glad to see IG's giving us some ammo, lol. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. I did a video on it for the Astro Historian that was released yesterday. So, Alonite Zero, how you doing? OX6, how you doing? Gyrating Vulper Tiger. The industrial conglomerate org I head up refuses to do business with anyone affiliated with Hurston. Okay. Hey Sly, how you doing? Aimless, settle in, stay a while and listen. Execute an Alan mad. Is it because I didn't do the episode with him yesterday? Because I forgot. My ass has been absolutely 100% swamped with work. Yeah, I've just been doing a bunch of stuff, so. Because Al reached out and said, hey, but why are Al and Execute mad? I want to know. Well, I guess they'll tell me, because I'm sure they'll rate in. Clasher changes? Is it saying the Clasher changes? Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the Clasher changes for ISC. We're going to talk about the roadmap Roundup. We're going to go over that. It's nice meeting the new writer, hearing about the new writer for CIG. I saw that job. Great dude, how are you? Hey, thank you, thank you. I'm the bad man too. Thank you for the 3 months of support. I have watched ISC. I'll watch it again. Corsair when? Maybe by the end of the year? Why? 319 confirmed? 319's been confirmed for a while. I think a lot of people got confused by what Chris Roberts said, because Chris Roberts is not always good at explaining things, and people don't really read properly. But he works for CIG now. He did the last update. What's his name? What is his name? Jeremy Melau. I'll screw that up as well. He's apparently he translates in French. I think it's French. He is made his own D&D adventures, so fellow DM. And he's working on his own TTRPG, and apparently, I guess he may have done some other work for some video games in the past, but he now works for CIG at the LA office, so it's pretty cool. Mom, can we have Jumptown? No, we have Jumptown at home. Jumptown at home. It's a baby Jumptown is what it is, which is fine. It's like a copywriter. No, because he wrote the latest, Plain Truth, the one I did the video on. He wrote that, so not exactly copywriter, but. Walk me through your highest level of your Patreon. That's what I want, but I don't want the pressure of telling you what to do to create. So I'll talk. Let me. Okay, if you want to do that, I do have a Patreon. Let me pull it up. It's no one uses the highest level. I think Sli-Fi was the one who uses the highest level for some point, and I barely ever fully did it. I have to go through and kind of fix it a little bit. But let me go through my page and go through the membership. Okay. So the highest one is $100 per month. And basically, you get one. Let's see if I can fix this. It's not showing me. Let me go back through my insights. It's been a while since I set that up. Benefits. There we go. For those who really want me to cover a single topic in lore. So basically, you get to, if you want to, you can reach out and tell me one topic you want me to cover for any game. Star Citizen probably would be preferable, but any game if you want me to cover a topic. So if you're like really, really wanting to be like, hey, I'd like you to cover this topic, I can do a video on it. Now, I can't guarantee that all the topics have a lot of information on it. So like say, oh, I want you to do a video on the mule, for instance. I can't really, because there's no information about the mule other than what we have. I may be able to do a small video, but I wouldn't be one of those like, hey, here's $100, make this 3-minute video. I'd feel bad about that, so. Hey, you know what? You can always donate. Money is fine. If you want to spend that amount of money early, what you can do is you can do a yearly subscription. So you can do like a $5 yearly subscription, and it'll be about, I think it's like a little less than $100. You do a yearly subscription, and that'll help me pay. I do have an editor who has been working with me. I'd like to get him on full time or more frequently. And as of lately, we are at the $500 mark, just barely. So I can start paying him. I'm going to pay him about $400 a month out of the Patreon. So he'll have more money. So it'd be easier for him to put more time on it. So. I don't know if it's screwed up or if you're all talking. But thank you, Don Fasho. I also would like that. It would increase my quality, and I'd be able to do things at more last minute. Because my goal of getting an editor, if my current editor is able to do so, if I got $1,000 a month, which, don't worry about it. But if I did, it would be easier for me to just go, hey, here is $1,000, work for 2 weeks. I want you to make 4 videos. And that way I'd have videos in the bank ready for just to boop, 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 just to like drop out whenever I needed to. Okay, good. Because Restream chat has a nasty ability of just dropping out. So anyways, let's talk a little bit about updates. Because I always do this at the very beginning of the stream. I don't have any new information. No new models that have painted yet. I've just been busy with work. I did release a video a little bit later than I usually do, but it's doing pretty well, which is a lore news update on Hurston. I've decided that I'm going to have to go, especially with those, I'm going to have to be a little bit more clickbaity. Just because, it is a topic that I talk about, but it just doesn't get people to watch those other videos. So I have to be a little bit more enticing, if it were. But people like it. And I do think it has a legitimate chance of becoming an event or a mission chain in the future, because Malo Ex Bonum, which has been around since the very beginning of the whole, not the whole game, but since we did FPS missions on bunkers, that group now has a name. And that group is now named the United Workers of Hurston. And they didn't, you know, I know enough about how CIG does lore that they didn't just invent it out of whole cloth for nothing. There's a reason why that article was written, in the sense that it was used to build up some background that they wanted to flesh out. And if they wanted to flesh it out, there's got to be a reason why they wanted to flesh it out. And on top of that, this is where my hat comes on, my tinfoil hat comes on. They're completely redoing Loreville. From the ground up, it's completely getting redone. Probably not 3.18, maybe 3.19, probably more like 4.0. So Loreville is going to be completely redone in the next 6 months. You're going to want to put some people in there, including Michael Shaw, who is this mission giver who's supposed to have been in Loreville forever and hasn't been, who works closely with that group, the UWH, who is kind of the rebels of Hurston, who's all part of the same kind of smuggling syndicate as Klim and Eddie Parr. So Wallace Klim, Eddie Parr, and Michael Shaw are all part of the same smuggling ring. So, pretty cool. Affiliate is 50 followers. Yes, I think it's 50 followers and a certain number of certain number of watch time hours. Yeah. Well, with the SPK news from ISC, I guess I'm going back to pure cargo running. I really can't be bothered operating Crusader system. PMC work has too much CS risk attached to it. It's supposed to be, though. Like, I don't have a problem with this. It just means that a lot of people will camp Korea, which isn't fun gameplay. But I also it's a typical CIG move. What is it? Kleischer only exists because the people who had time to make it made it, but they were doing it in anticipation of Pyro coming out. And then Pyro didn't come out. So they were stuck with a gameplay system that was finished or was in the process of being finished that they had ready to go that didn't have its associated supports to it. So, whoops. And turned everyone into a criminal and made it much more difficult to become, to do illegal activities. But with 3.18 moving the way it is towards being a criminal, being much more profitable and much more lucrative, because this isn't done in a vacuum. We're going to see other things on the back end that they're going to try to do to improve the profitability of criminality. I can guarantee you that. But they're also going to make it a lot more riskier. I'm just going to have to do it. Did Sly-Fi drop a bunch of stuff? He did. Thank you, Sly-Fi. The problem is that the restream does not tell me these updates. It only tells me like YouTube super chats. So thank you, Sly-Fi, for gifting those subs to AZK, Cavalier, Urban Burger, Architect TV, and Boviet Bunyan. Y'all are very important pubbers. Y'all rock. Oop. Turn all that on back again. There you go. I think we'll add to it like Orison. All the cities might get the same treatment. Well, no. From what it sounds like is they wanted to do a complete rework of Loreville because Loreville is not good up close. It does not scale well for its design. So, how is SCL today? We're gonna watch it here in a moment, but a lot of people have mixed opinions about it. I think it's okay though. Hey Mario, how you doing? Thank you so much for that Kappa there. Prime for 8 months there, Vader. Is it just me, or is the lift issue and bunker spawning content issues returned? Oh yeah, it's definitely back. They're definitely back. See, that's the reason why. That's one of that right there is one of the examples of a weird thing that happened. One half wrote that out. There is nothing on this on the chat of that original conversation. So there are definitely some issues with Restream IO. Its chat function doesn't capture all the chat. So if you have to repeat yourself, you're like, why is he not paying attention to me? It's like, it's not that I'm not paying attention to you. It's that the Restream bot sucks sometimes. It doesn't pick up all of the chat functions. So Restream.io has a combined chat feature, so you can see Twitch and YouTube chat at the same time. It's not really a bot. There is a bot that they use, but background information doesn't always work. It skips a couple of, I guess, cycles, so it doesn't always put things off. Oh, I'm sure they're not happy with the lift bug, but at the same time, I'm definitely going to meme it, because it's one thing. If there's one thing I know, if you meme something in Star Citizen, it will get fixed, or it will change. It's the only way to get their attention. Because CIG, especially the management, is super nervous about memes. Either out of lack of understanding or thinking that memes are teasing or like they're making fun of people, which they're not. They're mostly made to be humorous. But CIG still has yet to learn to lean into the memes. Their social media team is great, and their community team is great with that. They understand memes, but it seems like the upper management doesn't as much. So whenever you start memeing something and it gets popular and enough people see it, it'll actually start getting changed. You have to lean into the memes though. It's the only way that CIG learns. Hey, it became the best in show ship. And I can almost guarantee you they will fix the best in show competition in the future because of that. Especially since another meme competition is going to win, the Mule. I'm a big fan of the Grey Cat buggy. I think the Grey Cat buggy will do well. But if I know CIG, they're gonna, in their infinite wisdom, they're gonna put the Grey Cat buggy against the Mule for fun in the first round, and then it's gonna be like, cool. Now all the people who voted for the non-winner will vote for the PTV or the Mule. So you just put all of those two camps are the same camp. Once it comes down to just one of those things, they will merge, and you will not be able to stop them. Thank you for that. 9 months. Thanks for all your hard works on stream and in school. Thank you, 89. Yeah, I'm back in school right now, so my life is nothing but treading water, trying to survive, because I've got to do 19 different things at once. So it'll smooth out over the next couple of weeks, but whew, right now I had to stay late at school because I didn't have a lesson plan built because I'd been doing a bunch of other stuff for tomorrow. I don't think CIG would ever. Okay, so Randier Lawmass says, I liked Quancy's take on the in only the Raven is a meme as it cannot be sold, Intel exclusive. I don't think CIG would ever let that happen, because if we voted for the Raven to be in the top 4 best in show, they would have to sell it as part of their that's part of the whole thing. So they would never do it. Day 638 of waiting for a new CNOU ship, right? I mean, we did get one last year. We got one in IAE last year. Or was that 2 years ago? Last year was the Spartan, wasn't it? 2 years ago was the... No, we got one this a couple of weeks ago. Not a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. Beginning of the year, we got the hover quad. The hover quad is that. So how does the voting work? All right, so let's go over the best in show thing. So right now they're going through the preliminaries. So your job is to post as much content on their website to support the candidate you want. So whatever ships, and the ships or vehicles that have the most upvotes on their site, that have the most social media traction, that then gets moved on to the top 16. The top 16 are voted on in like September or I think it's September, October. This is it's September because it has to be done before CitizenCon, I believe. And then you have the top 4, which releases the top 4, and then the winner. So the hover quad's a CNOU ship, my man. As much as the mule is a Drake ship. Exclusive ships will not go up in the showdown. Sure, people might want them some paid jobs, but CIG's not going to sell them. So no Omega, no Raven. Yeah, because they have the exclusive deals with those companies. CIG. So you want a new fabricator ship from CNO? Yes. All best I could do is Nomad M. The PTV is useless. That can't be CCU'd as an LTI token. It's not useless. It's just not useless for the LTI game. It's still a useful ship, and it's only $15. Okay. All right. So let's get on and watch the latest SCL or ISC SCL. All right. So this is the controversial one for some reason. I never understand the controversy over this stuff.
The stand system has seen many changes since the persistent universe first came online. It's grown, expanded, been reshaped and reformed, and it continues to evolve with each successive patch. And while the upcoming Pyro system and our journey to 4.0 is a big focus for everyone around, it's important to keep an eye on the present and continue to iterate on and improve upon what's come before. And this week's show focuses on the work of the mission feature team in doing just that. Now up first, Space Station Korea, old stalwart of PvP in the Stanton system, is about to get a makeover both in looks and in restored purpose.
Back in its heyday, Korea used to be this big central hub for PvP.
Papers, please. It was fantastic.
Which has multiple entrances and exits, and it's just perfect for that kind of gameplay.
I'm going to pause it again. You young whippersnappers don't understand the heyday of Korea. Korea was the game. It was PvP. It was where you went to go fight. It was the only place we had FPS for a long time before they let us go land. It was where you could go fight. And they built entire systems in the game just to. There used to be booze that you could get that would get you 100 UEC each. It was fantastic. It was amazing. I think that's probably where they got this idea from, which we'll talk about here in a moment.
When we added the UGFs and added some of the security depots where you could go and hack away your crime stat, kind of took away from Korea's unique PvP draw.
And we've decided that we want to give players a taste of what Korea used to be like.
Korea is a security outpost that was meant for Crusader security to kind of have as their base of operations. Unfortunately, it ended up not being fit for living and working there.
It's been abandoned by Crusader. The uses the player can have there is there's a few missions they can take there to kill, stragglers, nine-tails. They can go there to hack away their crime stat. There's some loot there as well, so players do go there to loot.
However, now, if you approach Korea, you're going to immediately notice Crusader has moved in at this point.
They're going to be using this facility as it was intended. And the way they're doing this, and we're doing this to hopefully...
Notice the background. I hate to conjecture to guess that this gentleman is in the UK studio, but it looks like he's in the UK studio. If you notice the background, they have stripped everything out of that place. If that's the case, then they're already in the process of moving, which is good. Just a little new studio, yeah. This is either the new studio or this is the old studio that they're in the process of. It looks like it's the old studio they're in the process of moving out of.
Entice PvP at this location is we're firstly beefing up the exterior security of Korea.
You will be met with new online turrets that will not be too happy with you arriving.
It's now going to be even harder for people to approach and land. When you get there to land, you might find some enemies on the landing pad to thwart your infiltration of Korea. When you're inside Korea, there'll be Crusader security all around that you'll have to take out if you want to use that station. After killing a few of them, a security chief will spawn.
Now, if you take this guy down and you look around, he will have a security code on him.
You can take his datapad off, operate his terminal, and then start this contraband dispenser.
It's a device that goes into the...
It's a little weird we spend so much time chasing nostalgia for patched and emergent gameplay. Not really. This doesn't really seem like a nostalgia trip. This seems more like we have an asset that was always intended to be used as a security station. How can we use what we know now to go back and improve that facility? This is very typical of a lot of iterative gameplay design features, like how things work. You have something, how can you improve it? How can you change it? What can you bend? What can you break? Can we make this interesting? It's an experiment, is what it would be. It's just normally you wouldn't see something like this in a live environment. You'd see it in like a testing environment behind the scenes. They're trying to implement Jump Town in a small scale. But they're using Korea because it already exists as an asset for them, and it has a bit of nostalgia flavor to it. So there's a little bit there, but not much. Yeah, Jump Town 24/7
storage facility and pulls up contraband that was deposited by the law enforcement.
And the great thing about that is obviously we've got some highly valuable drugs in the game. We're making even more highly prohibited and expensive goods, as well as scrap. Just we'll throw some worthless rubbish in there, so it's an absolute gamble.
You'll still be able to wipe your crime stat there. That is always going to be wanted at Korea, but the new thing we've done is we've removed the UGF crime stats. You will no longer be able to go to a UGF to wipe it.
Obviously, that's going to focus criminals and like law enforcement, those who roleplay law enforcement into that area. But we decided that still wasn't enough. We'd been looking for a way to give players their first ever kind of player-triggered mission.
When this location goes under attack, which is when a certain amount of the AI that are defending the location are killed, and broadcast will be put out to all bounty hunters, anyone who is a lawful player, to come to this location and remove the threat at that location. However, don't get greedy and pick up any of the contraband. You might just be marked as one of those bad players.
So I think players who've been with us for a while will be really excited to hear what we're doing with Korea.
This is going to pull everyone to this one location to have battles.
It's open, it's functional, and it's going to serve as a dangerous hotspot for both criminal and lawful players alike.
All right, I'm going to pause that now because we're going to kind of go over this real quickly because there's a lot that people are asking. Effectively, what this means is that, by the way, are you all hearing the transition sounds still? Because I turned off the monitoring, so I want to make sure. Are you still hearing the transition sounds? Okay, good. It was doubling up because it was playing in my ears, which was also playing in the actual thing. So here's the thing. What they're saying is, I'll turn the music on for this. What they're saying is that Korea is going to be the only place you can hack your crime stat. It's also going to have its own jump town built into it as a mission, or as a emergent gameplay feature. And it's going to have its own another mission, a counter mission for the hack, which they've always had, but now it's, you know, more specific. What a lot of people are upset about is I get a crime stat for fucking up on the smallest things. This is going to punish me, and because of like bugs or because of other issues. And the answer is yes, it will. But we're also reaching the point where CIG can't design around bugs. Nor should they really. They should design around the game being as functional as they think it's going to be. However, I do think that making this the only one is going to cause unintended gameplay. The problem is that what you're going to have is people will see, oh, there's a criminal in the area because you have this X-ray vision bullshit bounty hunting system. They're just going to go, oh, there's a criminal, a bounty just popped up. I don't have to chase them. I'm just going to go to Korea and camp it. So when people show up, I can just ace them. Just sit in my Eclipse, minimum signature, someone shows up, torpedo away, done, check cash. Not fun, not engaging, boring, lazy. That kind of gameplay is it's encouraging. And I don't think they've planned that. A parking violation is only tier 1. You can still pay off. A lot of people don't realize you can pay off level 1 crimes. If you have a level 1 crime stat, you can go to any station, even Grimhex, and pay it off with a fine. Oh no, I definitely agree that the career criminals will go there for PvP. That's fine. What you need, however, is 2 options. Just 2. Korea is fine, but then make another one on the other side of the fucking system. Because you can't make it so easy so that bounty hunters don't actually have to do any work. That's dumb. Having one in Microtech and one in Crusader makes sense. Or one in, whatever. Having 2 places where you can hack on opposite sides of the system are far away from different planet areas would improve the odds, would reduce the amount of people who could just camp one area and still have all the benefits they want to have. I don't think we should have every UGF be able to hack. That's still stupid. Like, I understand what their point is. Their point is they want to funnel players into interaction points. Because whether you like it or not, this is not a single player game. This is an MMO. They want you to play with other people. They want you to interact with other people. They're not going to make it mandatory, obviously, because people want to solo play some MMOs. But if you think that they're going to build this game specifically around the perfect experience for the solo player, you're smoking something serious. This game is built as an MMO with engagement as its main kind of thing. And they want to encourage players to bump into each other more often. And I know that's an unpopular opinion. There are people who say, I want this game to be a single player experience where I don't have to interact with any single person. And I get that's your point. And I get I've heard so many people say, well, if this game requires me to play with other people, then it's going to die. And I think that's just a little selfish and over the top, but I've heard those arguments. The reality is that they need to balance these things, and you can't balance against bugs. Just flat out, you cannot balance against bugs. You have to balance with the game you have. And that's just the reality. Yes, there's one UGF in every planetary system you can hack at. Usually called the Security Depot. That's correct. Yeah, UGF stands for Underground Facility, by the way, y'all. But I know what they're saying is, just like drug labs, Drug labs became super boring, and no one wanted to do drug labs when you had more jump towns. When it was just jump town, people would focus on jump town, and that created the most interesting interactions, especially Jump Town 1, the first Jump Town Wars. That was the origin. It only happened because there was one location. But when you spread that out, no one cared anymore. And people stopped doing those things. So it kind of let those things were no longer hotspots. Similar to Korea used to be the hotspot for criminal activity. And then it disappeared because people stopped caring. People stopped going there because they're like, fuck it, I'll just go to the farthest one in Microtech where nobody is and hack there and I'll be fine. So, but they're removing UGFs? No. They're not removing UGFs, they're just removing the ability to hack at UGFs. All right, Bucky, I'm going to be honest. Your alternative hacking option suggested is to implement hacking in the Herald, but it spawns a player mission to find hackers like we have for data scammer missions. Provide some risk that can have PvP, but the total chaotic PvP fiasco like Korea is sure to be. But not total chaotic PvP fiasco like it can be. That's not in game yet. That requires a hacking gameplay loop which doesn't exist. You got to think about what can CIG do now with the tools they have now to implement this. Yes, they're wiping the ability to wipe CS at UGFs, and the only place you can wipe it in 3.18, it sounds like, is going to be Korea. Sounds like a dynamic or organic JT. That's exactly what it is. It is a 3.18, yes. All of this stuff is at least scheduled for 3.18. Yeah, down the line, we need to get rid of the CS system. The CS system sucks. The crime system in Star Citizen is dumb, it's bullshit, it's lazy, and it's trite. It's fucking GTA. And as much as GTA is a good game, Star Citizen should... The people who want to reinvent how you make a wheel... are saying, yeah, this is fine. A 5-star system that's from a game that's from the early 2000s originally. That whole system is fine. We're not going to fuck with it. Like, fuck that. No. If you can't sit here and yell at, can't sit here and be like, well, we have to completely rework ground physics. We have to individually map the pores on your skin to make them as immersive as possible and not come up with a system that's more robust or interesting or different than 5-star crime ratings. Stanton is a high-sec system. In lore it is, or medium-sec system, I think. But I think it's a high-sec system. The reason why they're doing these sorts of implementations is for Pyro. In the end, they want to have Pyro, and they want to chase players who want to commit more crimes out into the Pyro system. So if you want to live that dangerous, violent, outlaw lifestyle, go to Pyro. Place 1 hack per planet and Korea at the higher levels of CS, like Hamset and up. I disagree with that, Dakota, only because it spreads out the problems. What you're basically doing is replacing, because people will take the slower time because they know that it'll be impossible for someone to find them. Because they'll just go to some obscure location wherever you can go and then just sit there and be like, cool, I'm done, which is the way it works now. It's impossible to track down a criminal who's wanted if they're already starting the hack. Because unless you're very lucky and you're right next to where they are, you're never going to catch them. The hack is too fast. And even if you slow down the hack, it would still be probably, unless it was painfully slow. And if it was painfully slow, you'd have crashes, you'd have bugs, you'd have other issues that would pop up, and people would say, you have to go to Korea because everything else doesn't work, and then you're still back to square one. I think it's a better option to have 2. Not every single planet gets a fucking UGF or hacking station, but 2 hacking stations. That would be a lot more reasonable. I mean, Adventure 1 will be okay. This doesn't make it impossible to be a solo player. It just makes it very difficult to be a solo criminal player, which it should be. If that's an unpopular opinion, okay. It's a game. Being a criminal in Star Citizen is hard mode. How about a security ship that travels the system that can be boarded for hacking? That's a great idea, but it needs that requires a ship to be made. It requires settings to be, like that's a little bit more in depth. It's probably more doable because they could do something similar to what they do now, but I don't want to go to Kleischer because an a-hole PvPer who likes shooting people who should just go play Star Marine instead because the UEE deems something I did illegal. It's not fun gameplay loop to me. I don't know how to say this in a nice way. Sorry, Dakota. I don't mean to sound like to offend anybody about this. It's just one of those. I don't know how to be not blunt about it. You're going to run into that situation, no matter what, now or in the future. And CIG wants to make life for criminals harder but more rewarding. And you're going to have situations where people who don't want to be criminals screw up. And then, like, you got to figure it out. And the thing is it also makes for interesting gameplay. It makes for interesting stories. You shoot the wrong person, you're wanted. Now what do? You're just ruthless and kill that person on sight just because, oh, well, you're no longer an asset to me. That sounds like no one wants to play with you after that if there's something goes wrong. Or do you try to bust them out and do some other things? It's not, hey, watch it, only half left. It's not a get over it, it's PvP. The game is PvP, but it's not exclusively PvP. I know what Dakota's trying to say, which is Dakota doesn't want to participate in a situation where their decision to do a gameplay is interrupted because a bug happened or because an issue happened, and now suddenly they're stuck with a crime stat that they didn't earn nor did they want to have to participate in a gameplay loop they never signed up for. Star Citizen is a multiplayer game, but it's not exclusively a PvP game. Thinking about they could have a second location that could just be used by the UEE station from Xenothreat, maybe. I mean, they could do a lot of stuff. They could just have one UGF that they have now and just leave that active. Leave it in Hurston. Fucking the Hurstons don't give a shit. My point is that the reason why this stems from an arbitrary crime system that's stupid. The arbitrary crime system is dumb. It's not immersive. It's not, this isn't the right word. Not immersive is the wrong word. It's not intuitive. Crusader is Crusader. Crusader is like, it's like Norway. It has its own laws. It has its own government. It has its own everything. It functions on its own. It has interactions with other people outside of its country, outside of its borders. It's its own entity. Hurston is like the Philippines. There is no way that the Philippines and Norway should have unilateral criminal status that pops between both of them. Probably don't even have similar laws. They're not even written the same way because they're completely different countries with completely different cultures. That's the reason why I picked those two countries, just two countries that are diametrically opposed in terms of many of their social, cultural beliefs. And CIG has been very, very careful to 100% implement that. Every system has different laws, even in the violations that you can occur. But a criminal act in Hurston carries the same weight as it does, as that act so it matters in Stanton, when it really shouldn't. But this is another tirade that I've gone on many times. I think the criminal system, the CS system, in-game sucks. And it's too arbitrary and needs to be more flexible. And it should be based off of reputation. They already have the reputation system there. Just integrate the reputation system into the criminal system. Because if you have a negative reputation with Hurston, then, yeah, you're going to be a criminal in Hurston. This is one point where I think Elite does better and worse at the same time. Yeah. Elite system makes a little bit more sense because Elite system, for those who don't know, every system and sometimes every planet has its own criminal and laws. And so that's why you have to use a bounty scanner to scan down bounties. And sometimes those people will be not wanted in a system they're flying in, but they're wanted in a different system, 4 jumps away. So if you kill them, then you can get their bounty for that other system. Hey, Red. There needs to be a reputation system. The law system needs to be based on reputation. That's all. Similar, you have the exact same consequences for fucking with a gang as you would with the UEE. It's just to get negative reputation with the UEE, you need to commit crimes. You can lose reputation, you can get parking violations and those kind of things, which will make you pay fines, but there should be a reputation situation. And you can easily tier it so, like, they already have the criminal system in place. You can just map that on. Now, it's not one-to-one, they're different systems, blah, 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 blah. But, like, they already know how to build it. They've built it already. But unless you're violating UEE common law, you shouldn't be hunted down. A parking violation in Hurston shouldn't get you shot in Microtech. Is my point. It is temporary. Yeah, the current CS system is only temporary. They will evolve it over time, but they haven't spent any time evolving it, really. They've done some back-end work to it, but they've never really changed the front end nor any of the systems, it feels like. And that is not a good idea when you already have both the back end and reputation working at the same time. It's like elevators. Elevators should have been fixed patches ago. They still fuck up. They still prevent people from playing the goddamn game. But CIG doesn't emphasize work on it. Not because they don't want to work on it, but because they have other things they have to worry about. And going back and fixing elevators now will help in the short term, but then those same people aren't fixing the long-term problems with elevators in terms of replacing the systems that run them. And as a result, it slows down the game. So I get that. But at the same time, we've been around this block for years, and we have all the systems, the back-end systems in place. Why isn't it a priority, especially with Pyro coming out? Hey, Al. No, still all this rebellion talk. Hey, I'm just reporting. I just report the what's being said. All right, the UWH is a rebellion. They are a rebellion. It's double-edged sword running a service game. Yeah, a parking violation in the Philippines might get you shot, but not get you shot in Norway. You know? Ah, the Inforunners are here. Welcome, everyone, from the Inforunners. We're talking about the UGF controversy, and basically my solution to it is, it doesn't make sense to only have one place to hack away your crime stat, because that's just going to lead to boring, uninspired, lazy, and just shitty gameplay. PvP is interesting, but it's not interesting when it can be cheesed like cheesier than mac and cheese. Cheesier than Chuck Charles Entertainment cheese. All right? That's how cheesy that's going to get. Because CIG is going to break some things. And even then, even if you can't plan on them perfectly balancing the game, they should also know that doing this sort of thing is going to cause unintended consequences where people are going to be real shitty. So having 2 locations improves the chances that you may be able to get away with it, because it has to split the server into bounty hunters will have to go to both of those locations. If you make them far enough away from each other, it gives a chance for them to respond, but it still gives you a chance to just get away from it if you need to. No problem, yo. I'm not as annoyed at it or upset about it. I just think it's short-sighted, because I already know how to cheese the system. If I wanted to do this, if I wanted to be a bounty hunter now for this system, currently with 3.18 or 3.17.2, Eclipse, low sense, the lowest signature I can get with the best lowest signature stuff, load in a bunch of torpedoes. The second someone comes out of quantum, check cashed. Do it until I'm out of torpedoes, go back, get more torpedoes, come back, continue the barrage. It's very, yeah, I can do an info runner episode tomorrow, yeah. Yeah, like a second location could be placed on Microtech, or just use one of the UGFs on Microtech. Just make it so that it's a UGF. It makes it more interesting. You uninstalled starcitizen first time since you had the hangers in 2014. Come Pyro, I'll play again. It's fine. It's always good to take ideas. Okay, how about this one? Hacking for each security company on the planet for violations against them, and Korea for UE crimes. Possibly. I wouldn't mind that. But that requires a change to the system. Like, in a perfect world, in a perfect universe.
Hey, a tip!
Red super chatted $19.99. Bazinga.
Thank you so much for that Bazinga. For that $20 Bazinga they read. Clear people / pirates. Dear people, pirates that keep trying to rob me at aerial lithium. Toss my freaking salad and eat industrial bag of dicks. I escaped again, so suck it. That's a good one. I like that. As I said in the Info Runners, I'm a pirate and I love PvP, but it's stupid as fuck. I don't want people to shoot fish and barrel. Exactly. It's the same problem with having the jump point at Pyro be the only jump point exit. People are just going to camp it and blow the shit out of it because they can. Like, you need to just think about it in terms of, how can I, as a shitty individual, think about it, be your shittiest person and break the game? Because when you start thinking like that, you go, I know how to fuck this whole thing up. And I don't want it to happen, but I can already do that. So unless you have some hard counters to it, which you can't, because even fixing some of these other problems, someone will always come up with a way of shooting someone before they even get to Korea. But you can fix the problem, but I don't think it's fixable with the systems they have now. It makes more sense to have at least one other system or one other place for those things. But anyways, yeah, my ideal system for this crime stat system is you can't hack away your crime stat. Period. The only way you can do it is through a very complex series of working with individuals, maybe underground, like a mission set, or paying a certain person to do it. And you might be able to pay someone to hack away your crime stat, like an NPC, rather than having to do it yourself. But if you want to do it yourself, you'd have to go through a complex series of like breaking into Korea, and then breaking into Korea and unwiping it. It should be incredibly difficult to get rid of your crime stat. And your crime stat should carry with you for long periods of time. But in that ideal world, we have multiple star systems, so you couldn't just be stuck in one place. Did I make the old AstroPub Astro Historian, or did the YouTube unsub me from AstroPub? The old AstroPub is now Astro Historian. The new AstroPub is now TheAstroPubLive. Yes. I felt it was going to be easier for me to do this content with a new channel, because people watch this stuff. I do make more content. The problem was that YouTube was burying my content, so I wasn't getting as many subscribers, nor was I getting as many eyes, because I was producing too much content. But now that I produce content on 2 separate channels, YouTube is picking both those channels up and yeeting them. I've had more growth on the Astro Historian than I've ever had sans a big YouTuber or some other person kind of recommending me. It's just been going like nuts. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I brought it up a couple times. It's been over a month now. I moved this channel over to a new channel because TheAstroPubLive, or because both channels were conflicting. The algorithm was not letting it grow because I was effectively doing 2 separate, entirely different methods of content creation: gaming and lore. Gaming content was 1-2 hours long, 3 hours, 4 hours. Like this is going to be 4 hours long. And, and at best it was like 13 to 20 minutes. Whereas lore almost entirely is between 8 and 20 minutes, with like once every few weeks doing a lore citizen, which is like an hour. Those 2 audiences don't usually mix very well. So YouTube was having a hard time recommending my channel to people. But now that I've completely separated the 2, YouTube goes, this is a lore channel, this is a gaming channel. So you're saying the Eclipse thing is exactly why I don't want CIG to implement this in 3.18 already. They have to change out the CS system first. I agree. I think you could still do this system they want to do, but they need to, and they can achieve the same goal with just limiting the number of UGFs, not removing them. Because the problem is they want to funnel people into one location, which is fine. But then you have cheesy motherfuckers who are going to cheese the cheese. Who are going to Charles Entertainment cheese this. And by the way, that's Chuck E. Cheese. That's the full name of Chuck E. Cheese, is Charles Entertainment Cheese. Americans may get this joke. But what was I saying? But if you did it in 2 different locations, you could still have the similar sort of experience, while giving players more of an option. You still have a risk. A player will still take a risk, but I get why they want to remove, because like there's more than just one UGF, one underground facility in every system. There's like 1 per planet in some cases. Sometimes there are multiples per planet. So it just becomes impossible to like chase anybody because they're just going to beat you wherever you go. All right, y'all, I'm going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, I apologize. Twitch is about to spam the ever-living hell out of audio emotes. So please mute yourselves. When I come back, it'll stop. It always happens. Be right back.
Weapons free, y'all.
2 words. Distress bacon.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Teenage shit, I'm out. Dance.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Dance.
Everybody and his dog calls himself sexy.
2 words.
It's at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
2 words. Distress bacon.
Teenage kid, I'm out.
Cajitas wares, if you have coin. I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
2 words. Distress bacon. 2 words. Distress bacon. 2 words. Distress 2 words. Distress 2 words. Distress
I'm
bacon.
flying. I'm pilot.
2 words. Distress bacon.
Weapon free, y'all.
Distress 2 bacons. Distress bacon. Distress 2 words. Distress bacon. 2 words. Distress bacon. 2 words. Distress
Teenage kid, I'm out.
Distress bacon.
Teenage kid, I'm out.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw. I'm pilot.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Teenage kid, I'm out. Weapon free, y'all.
2 words. Distress Distress bacon.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up. It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up. It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
All right, stop it, chat.
Teenage kid, I'm out.
I'll turn it off for you. No more. No more. I'm empty. I'm back. Twitch does it all the time when I leave. Your stream students are causing a riot. Oh. No, I'm right. You can still hear me, right? That was impressive. That's back. No more fun. Listen, I didn't start this tradition. Chat started doing it, and I was like, oh, great. I'm not going to be able to stop them. All right. So let's go back to watching a little bit of this. Basically, they need the gist of it, in my opinion, on this whole debacle is they need to understand that players will be very shitty to one another, and they will intentionally be shitty to one another. And I get that they want to make being criminal difficult, but if you make criminality be difficult without increasing the profitability or the fun, no one will fucking do it. So you've got to have to kind of give and take with this. There's no way you can do a harder way of living as a criminal and then not improve the life of a criminal right now. I get you don't want to for Pyro. You want to make Pyro that thing. But 3.18 is not Pyro. 3.18 is not 4.0. 4.0 is not coming out for another 6 months after 3.18 comes out. half a year. And I know to CIG that's nothing, but to a player, that's like 3 game cycles right there. You can't set up for that kind of situation without having a follow through. I don't know. I find the worst people in game tend to be creators, because they tend to like not want to play along with anything a pirate does and instantly blow themselves up or log out. And criminals do log out all the time. They do combat logging all the time. There's definitely ways they could improve that whole thing, but jail's not fun, Paul. Stuff happened in jail. It rhymes with grape. Jail is not supposed... Well, jail isn't fun, but jail in game should be fun. It should be engaging. I'm a big fan that you don't have to have fun to make a good game, but you need to make an engaging game to make it a good game. There are plenty of boring games, walking simulators, pain simulators, which are engaging and interesting. People want to experience them. Fucking... What is the famous one? The one about you walking through an office and you're being narrated. That's a boring game in all game standards, but it's not really a game. It's designed to be an experience. So, all right, Nix, have a good night. No problem, Nix. What do you think of Korea Station being the only place to remove crime stat when 318 goes live? We just went over it Exeter. I think it's a mistake. I think it's a short-sighted mistake, but I understand the reason why they want to do it. And I think the compromise is leave one other UGF or maybe 1 or 2 other UGFs. Don't just have Korea. You need to have one other place, because then it'll lead to boring gameplay. All right, let's go back to watching this whole thing.
Restoring Korea to its former glory is just one of several steps being taken recently to provide improved opportunities for PvP combat in the persistent universe. But we're going to check in on its visual make.
Yes, Stanley Parable, thank you. Yeah, that's a good example. Like, Stanley Parable is a fantastic game. It's a boring game, but it's fantastic.
Over as it progresses later this quarter. But now, let's turn our attention to prisons. Or maybe just one prison in particular. That home, too often a home for those who break Stanton's laws intentionally, or who...
Shouldn't there be a Korea for each planet? Not necessarily. Korea is, in lore, built by Crusaders specifically because they have a fucking criminal problem, and they don't know how to deal with it because they can't actually enforce the rules. So a station makes a lot of sense because they can use it as a rapid response, because you know how fucking long it takes to get out of Crusader's atmosphere. And if you build a facility that you defend well, you can use it as a staging post, lots of different things. So it makes sense. But there should be something like Korea on most planets. But the reason why Korea was the unique for the longest time, the reason why it was so unique for hacking your crime stat was because it was unattended. So it basically had an open terminal. And so you could get in there and hack it. And they try to mimic that with the other UGFs, which worked great. But at the same time, when you make too many options, then you have choice paralysis, or you have a situation where it becomes easy because of the number of options. So if I commit a crime in Hurston, I can go to a Hurston UGF and hack my crime stat away. The bounty hunters in that server could be spread out all over the system. So there might be 1 or 2 that could try to reach me in time, but the likelihood of them being able to reach me in time with only 100 players per server is very low. And without having to worry about any NPC bounty hunters, it's a joke. So what they wanted to do is reduce the number of UGFs that can hack away your crime stat to force players who are criminals into smaller sections, which makes it easier for bounty hunters to hunt them down and more interesting gameplay. The problem about eliminating it down to 1 means that you have boring gameplay, because now people will be encouraged to camp, and they'll use the cheesiest methods they can to ensure that they win. And that's not engaging gameplay. It's not fun gameplay because there's no counter to that gameplay. There's no counter to a stealthed eclipse that's so far away you can't even see it, and by the time that torpedo hits you, you're dead. By the time you see the torpedo, you're dead because you can't flare against it. So, all right.
You just stare at an elevator the wrong way. Let's go back to the mission feature team and discuss the ways they're currently exploring to bring new ways of escaping Kleischer's all too familiar grasp.
So currently in prison, there are 4 ways to get out. You can wait, you can mine, you can escape, and finally we added a mission where you can go and repair things for Kleischer, and they'll give you merits for doing so.
Luke? You're wrong. There's no way you can get out of Kleischer. Because you can check out, but you can't never leave. Thank you, good night.
But we don't believe that's enough variety, so we're working on more ways to complete your sentence.
The prison caves in particular can feel like quite a lonely place. You know, they're very dark, very damp. The likelihood of running into players is not particularly high, especially because there's 3 different routes.
So straight out of the gate, the first thing we're investigating is NPC prisoners in the caves. Currently, the caves are pretty empty. The only person in there is Auralia.
Burn! Burn! At least Elliot likes watching you, Auralia, so that's good.
And we want to expand that to have the...
Also, Elliot, this is moist noodle erasure, and I will not have it. Okay, moist noodle is the true queen of Korea, and Dark Law is the king. All right, we all know this. This is fact.
These you'll be able to hopefully kill them if you want to risk the crime, and they might have some things that might help reduce your sentence.
We also wanted to provide more sandbox opportunities for earning merits. So some of you have noticed.
Moist Noodle's the kitchen lady of Kleischer. That is his title from now on. Moist, you are now the kitchen lady of Kleischer. Embrace it. The lunch lady of Kleischer.
Fair stashes dotted around the tunnels.
They can contain items that you could have bought previously from the vending machine, and they can also find themselves contraband items like prison shivs. We're looking at ways to have a system where players can bring back contraband and other prison-wanted items and be rewarded for it.
We also want to investigate adding a reward for players taking out violent inmates. This will help clean the prison up and stop them from causing a ruckus, and it will also provide, the model prisoners more ways to legally and preferably pay off their crimes to society. And for those who don't want to serve their time, we're adding a new mission into the prisons.
All criminals caught end up in Kleischer, and there's lots of vital information to be recovered from there.
In a certain depth, in a certain cave, we're adding what is known as a black spot, where outside entities can contact you and ask you to do work inside of the prison.
In doing so, they will be rewarded very handsomely.
It's always great when we get to revisit locations and missions after getting player feedback, and this won't be the last of updates you'll find in the prison experience.
Nice.
So what did we learn this week?
I'm going to pause it for now. UGS have to be dramatically reduced if any substantive bounty hunting system without a magically markers, for instance, wants to be viable across dozens of systems. It does, but there is also the situation where you want to encourage interesting gameplay. So drastically reducing them, yes, but not eliminating them down to 1. That's a bad move in the current situation. Eventually, yeah, it should be damn near impossible to erase your crime set. That's the whole point. But,
Well, we learned that folks with a fondness for the old days of Korea have something familiar to look forward to. That Kleischer may finally get some NPC population to better obscure the same familiar faces that I keep seeing in there week after week. You know who you are. And that even with a major focus...
Don't talk to me, Jared. We don't make eye contact in Kleischer. That's the rule.
Pushing ahead, it's important we look back, iterate on what's come before, and continue to evolve all aspects of Star Citizen along the way. Now don't forget the Ship Showdown has begun, and it's your chance to advocate for the best of the best in Star Citizen ships and vehicles for a chance to win exclusive paints and prestige, and for us to bet internally on how we think you'll vote. I was so close last year. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee, here in the Bonded Warehouse, our
PTV.
neighbors at the new Manchester goods yard who were kind enough to let us in when the rain showed up. We'll see you all next week from who knows where.
Any funny ending screen? It looks like it might. No. No funny ending screen. I am sad. All right. So that's the Inside Star Citizen for this week. A lot of discussions on it. I do think there are some issues with the whole thing. I do like the Kleischer thing. Kleischer needed updated badly, and they talked about, they added that to the Roundup much earlier, and it was a good addition. But we'll see. Remember, Paul, stitches get stitches. Kleischer lore video. I do know where it's based at. Actually, there's an entire detailed lore behind Kleischer, and its whole creation. Kleischer is not a single prison. I believe it is a prison company, a company that makes prisons. And the thing that we see now as Kleischer is actually supposed to be automated, fully automated. So prisoners are supposed to be able to do things, and it's very few guards or any people who are handling them. It's all automated systems. So they mentioned prison content update when it was the first implementation. Glad to see that they get around to it. Yeah, it just took them a while. Yeah, Kleischer Rehabilitation Feature on Aberdeen is an automated prison facility managed by a corporation of the same name. Arrest criminals work off their sentences through a combination of serving time and labor and performing manual labor. There's an entire Jump Point article on it too. But it's not fully automated right now. You see Hurston guards walking around it. And the reason why there's Hurston guards walking around it is because they don't have automated turrets working yet. When they get automated turrets working, then you won't have guards anymore. Well, hello there, General Kenobi. How you doing? Lowers the way, yeah. Why CIG doesn't rework Korea to a new space station security with prison included? Because there is Orbital Supermax, which is an actual prison that exists in the lore that is in a different system. I don't remember where, but yeah, it will eventually happen. It's just not in Stanton. I do like it. We finally get the prison shiv. The prison shiv is still in game. You can get it in Kleischer right now. It exists. It's just, there's like one. And there's no purpose to it. So, congratulations on fulfilling your rehabilitation system. Citizen? Yes. I love that audio. That voiceover is fan-fucking-tastic. It is straight up, and I mean straight up, like RoboCop, why am I blanking on his name? The director of that. Paul Verhoeven. Yeah. It is Paul Verhoeven to a T. It's like you can tell, you know what kind of sci-fi the CIG writers watch. It reminded me a lot of Moon as well. It reminded me a lot of the Moon movie. As kind of that kind of aesthetic as well. So if I watch the ISC right, you can only wipe crime stat at Korea in the upcoming revamp? Yes, that's the idea. The voiceover sounds like the AI from Portal 2. Yeah, similar. Yeah, to like Gladys. It's very similar, but not as robotic. We could just walk out of there instead of waking up in a hub. Yeah, I mean, ideally, when you're captured, you might wake up in a location. I mean, ideally, what should happen is if you can't be killed. If you're killed, you wake up in the last place you regened at, which wouldn't be facility. So it makes it difficult. But that means you have to capture criminals alive, and that means you have to experience the whole process of being processed and stuff like that. Yes, I think we're gonna have a 319, but I don't think it's gonna be 319. It's gonna be 318 dot whatever. So the whole Stanton system will only have Correa to clear crime stat. Yes. Private Kleischer Racing Tour? Maybe. I just hope we go out of prison and not teleported back to Hurston. Yeah, I'd like to see a processing experience. I know that sounds boring, but it sounds interesting enough in terms of like the point is that your time is going to be wasted. A great many will be Correa blockades. Will indicate two-dimensional thinking. That's the problem, though. It's very two-dimensional. It's a very weird adjustment to the gameplay systems without any thought being put into how that might impact the player behavior. And CIG doesn't seem to really study player behavior. They may have some insights into it, but often their decisions seem to be counter to what player behavior is, and they work off the assumption that it's an old assumption, and a lot of players work off this assumption as well, which is wrong, which is the carrot versus stick method, where players will react more to being hit by sticks than by carrots. And the reality is the opposite. More players will respond to the Skinner box or to the reward system than they will be to a punishment system. And the more you punish a player for playing the game, the less likely they are going to play that game. CS1 and 2 should be fines only. CS1 and CS2 shouldn't exist. They need to revamp the crime stat system from the ground up, with including reputation with it. And I get that that's difficult, and they don't have resources to do that right now. But then don't revamp all of Korea if you don't have those resources. Now, I understand. I agree with removing UGFs. Don't get me wrong. Removing all of the UGFs is a good idea. But making Korea the only place you can hack away your crime stat is a bad idea. Because UGFs is non-intuitive. It's the complete opposite of the problem. Where criminals don't ever have to encounter bounty hunters. At all. Ever. Period. With the Korea, you'll have Korea camping. Korea camping corporations. Yeah, it's like the med gun fiasco where they didn't. Well, it was technically in PTU, but you should have thought about that a little bit. Crimes should be able to be hacked away, but they should take a lot of effort or a lot of money. But time should also matter. But I think if they moved over to a reputation system, it would be a lot better. Because say if you are working with Hurston, for instance, and you're doing an underground mission, and you've been working for them for a while, you have a very high reputation with Hurston, and then you accidentally shoot one of their security consultants. Now that gives you instant crime stat. But with the Hurstons, in reality, you know, and if that was a situation that existed in real life, which, you know, obviously it's a game, doesn't, but in transposing that idea, it would be seen as a terrible accident. Contractor got overzealous, made a mistake, someone got hurt. Is there going to be punishment? Oh yeah, there's definitely going to be some sort of consequence, but you're not going to fucking jail, most likely, because it's a workplace accident. That doesn't mean they can't be stressful or other problems. But the way you simulate something like that is you take a huge reputation hit. You go from being a tier 3 operator to a tier 1 operator. Goodbye, all of that money. You got to work from the ground up because you made a mistake. Will people get angry because there's bugs? Yeah. Will there still be problems? Yeah. But at the very least, you could sit there and go, you fucked up. All right? Just be glad you're not in jail. If you were tier 1 and you pulled that shit, you'd be gun in fucking jail. That's a little bit better. That's why, yeah, actions and mistakes have consequences. They should, but they shouldn't be, parking violation shouldn't be a death sentence. As much as it's a meme in Elite, it shouldn't be a death sentence. It's not a surefire way to turn yourself in properly, because there's no way to surrender, really. I think you should still be able to hack away your crime stat, but it should require a lot of effort. Yeah, the CS system needs a revamp. No more GTA getting shot at 1-star stuff. More 5M where you can just have pay a fine for minor crimes, like I said before. Yeah. I don't remember if they said they're planning to get rid of the crime stat system. I hope they do. And I agree for a much more nuanced reputation system. Because if you're in a negative reputation system with the UEE, the only way you could do that is if you're a criminal. Or a rebel. Which would be you're a criminal anyways. But I mean, that's kind of the point. What ships will be on sale for the showdown? I believe all 16 of the finalists will be on sale. And then during the actual process, during the IAE, all of the top 4 ships will be on sale with special skins. I would love to see the PTV win. I'm pulling for the PTV. But the Mule has got a solid second chance. Solid chance. I think the Mole might make it in. I think the Pisces has a shot. And I do think that what's the newest one? The 400i may do it as well. We'll see. It depends. I mean, all ships are going to be memes this year. You're welcome, by the way. Because people blame me. People forget that Redlear came up with this whole goddamn thing, including the PTV. It's not my fucking idea. I thought of it as an interesting idea, and then someone said Redlear said it before, and I'm like, all right, that's probably where I heard it before. That's where I got the idea originally. That's cool. But it's like, people blame me for it. Still. Like, all I did was elevate it to meme status. It was already there. Yeah, Scorpion. The Scorpion's definitely going to win. The Scorpion, that's the one. Yeah. Not first, but I can almost guarantee you it's going to be top 4. Because it's a ship, Bucky. That's why the Herald is not a meme ship, because it's a ship. What I don't get is the push for the Saber Raven. People think that they'll go in to buy it again if it's in the showdown. I think so. I think it's a way of saying, hey, CIG, you got to sell it, and they won't. I'd love the Tonk to win, but it's not going to. It never has a chance to. In theory, the rules state that any ship that's flyable, or that's in, no, it's not flyable, any ship that's in game can be win best in show, which means The Bengal could win Best in Show, theoretically. Because I want to waste everyone's time and money. They're never going to sell the Bengal, but it would be funny as shit to have it get into the top 16. They won't let it happen because, for those of you who don't know, CIG actually banned the MPUV from competition in 2019. No, 2020. In 2020, the MPUV was banned from the competition entirely. And so is the PTV. So in 2021, they said, fine, we'll do the Argo. And the whole campaign, the coordinated campaign between all the content creators and the players and everything, everyone trying to do their best to get it to win, and it won. Now they were like, okay, we'll let it in. So is Jav. Top 4 Bengal, Javelin, F8, and F7A. Yes. Kraken. Yeah. Yeah, the Cuddy doesn't need another win. Cuddy doesn't need another win at all. The Freelancer needs a win because it should be there, but, you know, won't. The Cuddy won twice. The Carrick won once. The one year it was the Caterpillar, the 600i, I think, actually. It may have not been. It was the first year. It was the Caterpillar, the Reclaimer, the Cutlass, and another one. I couldn't remember what it is. Why'd they ban it? Because they thought it was a meme ship and they thought it wasn't funny. And it was just Redlear who was pushing it. And they said, you know, it's nice, but no. Which is one of the reasons why when I found out that Redlear, because I pushed for the MPUV. And then someone said, hey, Redlear did it. And then I found out the whole story behind it. And I was like, yeah, I think I remembered something like that. So the fact that we bum rushed it into the finalists was intentional. So CIG couldn't pull the, well, it didn't quite have enough votes. It's like, fuck you, it doesn't. You can't vote for the concept ships. Unfortunately, they've already said that if it's not in game, they won't put it into Best in Show. What they really should do is revamp it so that you have a vehicle competition, a small ship competition, a medium ship competition, and a large ship competition, and then the final 4 go head to head. The winners of each of those competitions goes to head to figure out who's the best in show. And then in the next year, any ship that won that placed in the top 4 the previous year is barred from entry for the next year. That way you have a rotating series of ships that will come through. So the Cutlass could win one year and then not be eligible for the next, but then be eligible for the year after that. That would prevent ships from just constantly getting skins. Hey, Tyler. How you doing, buddy? Tyler Brown, not Tyler Woodkin. Unless Tyler is living a double life. Aha! Lorville Metro, Crusader Shuttle, Area 18 bus, New Babbage train for top 4. It sounds like almost like someone has attended organized show competitions. It's a simple fix. That's a simple change that would encourage everyone to be really, really excited about the ships that they want to push, meme the shit out of it still because it's fun, but also prevent it from going stale, where it's just one ship that wins every year. Orison Barge. I think they're called Titan Haulers or something like that. I can't remember what they call it. There's a name for them, but... All right. Hello, online. Welcome. Hello and welcome. So yes, I am pushing for the PTV this year because it is the first ship in Star Citizen, the first flyable vehicle, first drivable, flyable vehicle in the game. It is the lore is actually pretty deep for it. It has a very tragic backstory, which deserves to be recognized, similar to the very hardworking backstory of the MPUV. And it's an all-around good ship. It's a good vehicle that deserves more love. It used to have skins that no longer are sold, really. And it deserves its time to shine. It deserves a gold star. It deserves a gold star for 1 year to be like, way to go, little buddy. We remember you. We recognize you. A friend of mine pointed out the MPV-1S. Is that the search and rescue variant? The reason why I barely know anything about it is because they haven't made it in game yet. I think it's supposed to be a dedicated military variant as well for military ships. So the PTV is useful as well. It can fit into pretty much everything with a cargo bay and can navigate pretty rough terrain since it's so small. Yep. Yeah, we don't know about it because they haven't updated the lore for it in a while. But I assume that it's going to be a Squadron 42 thing. I mean, yeah, it's a death trap, but all vehicles are death traps. Other than the hover vehicles, every ground vehicle is a death trap. Maybe not the Tonk, but the Tonk is pretty weak at times. Yeah, there's designed to be modules. The MPUV is actually the name of the ship is the MPUV. The variants, the dash, whatevers, those are all the MPUV-C and the MPUV-T, I think, or is it P? I think it's P. Those are just the modules that it carries, but in theory, you could turn an MPU-1P into an MPU-1C easily. Just detach the pod and then go get another pod. That's why it's called the Argo Astronautics Multi-Purpose Utility Vehicle, MPUV. Hey, welcome, Captain Richard. Thanks for that raid. How y'all doing? We're about to go over the roadmap roundup, so it's good timing. Do I think the PTV would be useful for moving around the BMM cargo bay? Maybe. Also moving around on ground space at some points. Welcome, everybody. Let's do a quick thing here. So I'm about to do what I call a capsule. These are small segments of my office hours live stream. This is what you're watching right now that I actually record specifically for YouTube. So, yeah, we're just going to do that. The PTV is somehow magic with its breathable atmosphere. Yes, it's wonderful. Oh, Victor, God damn it. I didn't see that as well. Right, Victra. Okay, Victura, LT, how you doing? Thank you for that raid as well. I didn't see that either. How y'all doing? Welcome everyone from Captain's Table. From Captain Richard and Victoria's stream. My name's Paul. This is the AstroPub. Welcome to the office hours. This is a live stream where we talk about Star Citizen, news development. We just went over a bunch of the stuff about Korea, the changes to Korea, watched ISC, and then we're going to be moving on to the roadmap roundup, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the lore, the update as well. So it's a big thing. So thank you for coming in. So the problem is that this chat right here, which is what I'm using on my side as well, doesn't pick up notifications for raids, what is it called? Subscriptions, anything like that. So, yeah, it was a new roadmap roundup this week, so we're going to go over that. All right, chat. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start doing this. I'm not going to refer to chat very often, but you're in luck. So give me a moment. Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right, capsule. A small little thing that I forgot to turn off the sound alerts. A small little thing I pull from my Office Hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, where I look at the various news and updates from Star Citizen News. We talk a little bit about theory crafting, and we talk a little bit about lore as well. It's an AMA stream, so you can come in and ask me anything. We kind of get off topic every so often. But join us live there, and if you are joining us here for the second time, if this is the second time you've been watching any of my videos on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button and hit the little bell icon if you'd like to know exactly when these come out, because these come out pretty quickly. You can also become a member on YouTube for as little as $5 a month, and it'll get early access to some of my videos as well. So check that out if you can. Well, that all being said, let's get started with the roadmap roundup for 8/17/2022. All right, so the roadmap roundup. This happens every Wednesday. Every 2 weeks, we accompany the roadmap update with a brief explanatory note to give you some insight into the decision-making that led to any changes. This is part of an effort to make our communications more transparent, more specific, and more insightful for all of you who help make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 possible. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this week's roadmap roundup. CIG Community Team. Notable changes for August 17th. Progress Tracker. First, a small housekeeping update. The EU Landing Zone team has been split into two teams, EU Landing Zone 1 and EU Landing Zone 2, as both now have added resources coming from the props team. This week, the only change on the progress tracker is a slight reallocation of resources and the name change for the original team. We'll have full schedule for EU LZ2 once it's been finalized by production. There we go. So just changes some internal stuff. The following deliverables have been added to the progress tracker. Now, it's important to remember that anything that's added to the progress tracker is not something that's coming this next patch, but in a future patch. It's something they've been added that indicates a sprint of some kind has either started or is in the process already. Arena Commander Classic Race Mode Overhaul. A complete overhaul of all systems and maps in Arena Commander's Classic Race Mode. Improvements include a complete refactor of the checkpoint entity and race manager system, improvements to scoring, a complete rework of all 3 New Horizon Speedway maps, as well as a new map, the Snake Pit. This deliverable has been added to the Arena Commander feature team's schedule. We know that it's actually on the release view as well for 3.18, so they just added that in there. The Volt Pulse. Designing and creating the verified off-world laser technologies Pulse Energy Pistol. Includes a asset creation animation and balancing. This deliverable has been added to the weapon content team's schedule. That's something they've been doing a lot as well. The Volt stuff has been added to a lot of the stuff for Squadron, so it makes sense that it's being moved over to Star Citizen now. AI Vehicle Perception. This feature will give AI the ability to both perceive and detect vehicles from the ground, as well as select ground-based targets when piloting their own, using both vision and radar. This deliverable has been added to the AI tech team's schedule. So this will give the ability for AI to use ground-based vehicles and attack air vehicles, and also air vehicles to attack ground vehicles. Very nice. Ships with control surfaces will be able to use them in atmosphere to aid their maneuverability. This will allow for improved performance from ships that have weak maneuvering thrusters in atmosphere and bring new depth to aerodynamic flight in-game. Previously removed from Vehicle Experience Team's deliverables when merged with Vehicle Feature Team, this is returning to the progress tracker with this update. Aerodynamic control surfaces. This means that the flaps on your wings will work, which should improve your performance of your ship and not have to rely as much on thrusters when you're flying in atmospheric conditions. CIG is going to simplify a lot of the atmospheric planets so you don't have as wide variety as you actually would have, but this does mean that you'll increase, it means that ships like the Gladius in atmosphere should handle better and be more fuel efficient than ships like the Aurora, which is a good sign. Update. We realized an error on the current release view that was made due to our team pulling a set of data for the roadmap that was originally out of date for the Arena Commander feature team. This card for Arena Commander Classic Race Mode Overhaul was always intended to release with Alpha 319, not 318, and is currently on track to do so. Therefore, the card has been removed from the release view temporarily until all the goals for 319 are finalized, but will still remain on the progress tracker. Apologies for all the miscommunication. All right, so that's explains something. We're not getting the Overhaul with 318. It's coming into 319 patch. Very good. And this also brings up another thing. Patch 319. For those of you who don't know, 319 has been a patch in a holding patch pattern for a while. Now, the later and later we get to 318 not being in Evocati, confirmed or otherwise, not even leaked, means that we're likely not going to see 318 for a while. And we know 318 is at itself going to be a several month process, much longer than most other patches. What that means is, quite frankly, we're not going to see 4.0 this year. We'll see it next year, probably. They want to release it in the spring, but every time Chris Roberts says something like that, it means fall. So we'll see in the near future, but this is another update, kind of an update to that update, where we will be getting a 319. It's going to be a 317.2 patch, is what they've said in the past. It's effectively right now a placeholder. I would not expect an actual patch. I would expect something along the lines of a 317.2, a 318 dot whatever patch that's just called 319. They do it all the time with the Q4 patches. They did it with, I think, 315 as well. So it happens frequently. So that's another update. Kind of a bummer, but good with the good around. Thank you for watching, if you are watching this still, and let me know, as always, in the comments if these sort of things be helpful. I'll have the link for the roadmap roundup below. So go ahead and click that and read it yourself. I suggest going through all the progress trackers and the release views on your own to kind of give yourself a little bit more information. And yeah, like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. About a 7-minute video, not bad. Okay, so they made a little oopsie, yeah. I'd rather they focus on Squad 42, but that's just me. 11 out of 10, perhaps will thank you. And then no update, yeah. So no update after IAE, I assume. No, we'll get an update, but it'll be a .x patch, and then we won't see again until 4.0 comes out in the spring. But I'm going to be honest with y'all. It is a mistake to assume. I'd never assume malice with CIG. I never assume that CIG is sitting there going, how can we milk money out of our players? They're much more honest, but they're afraid of being upfront because they're afraid people will overreact, because every time they've been upfront, people overreact. So, like, a lot of people are just like, oh, 319 confirmed. It's like, yeah, 319's been confirmed for a while. It's just reality. Thank you for that hype train. Silky, thank you so much for gifting those subs to Velocity, Kia, Gunra, Moppin, Commander Silvis, all that wonderful, wonderful stuff. There you go. When for ISC stopping again? What? I already watched all of ISC. Oh, stopping? It'll stop probably end of August, would be my guess. End of August, September. Halo 4.0. Occam's Razor? I thought that was something else. I thought Occam's Razor was the simplest solution. Is usually the best solution. It's also a great folk band. I've heard good things. Yes. Is it both of those? I know that the never assume malice, which can be applied through stupidity, but I've heard that term as well. I don't know if Occam did the same thing, but I feel like 2019 is going to be pushed to Q1 2023, but I could be wrong. But I'm preparing for it. CIG will release 319 when it's good and ready, but 319, I wouldn't expect much from 319. It'll be whatever they can't get in 318. So because people, all right, I always say this and people get upset. When someone goes, how's that staggered development going? They don't understand staggered development. And you say that and they go, oh, whatever, just fuck you. It's like, no, you really don't understand staggered development if that's what you think. Staggered development works in that you stagger your teams based off of the work they're doing. It doesn't mean that every team, like this team is working on 318 and this team is working on 319 and this team is working on 4.0. It doesn't work like that. A team is staggered saying, okay, you have 6 months to complete this. We're going to get you starting in January and you'll be done in July. And then another team will start another thing 3 months later and they'll have a 6-month window. Now, if that team is able to finish it early, they can release it early. If it finish it late, then it just goes into the next patch. There's no like these are the teams working on this patch, that. They're all working on their own. They're just staggered out so that it's easier for them to, if they slip, they can easily kind of keep working on it or stuff. But it doesn't mean that if one team slips up, the entire patch is fucked, which has happened in the past, where like the patch was riding on this one technology. If that one technology wasn't going to get in, nothing's going to happen. And like I said, it's happened before. But when you stagger it out, you get more content. And we see the fruits of that staggered release. Pretty much all the last 2 years have been proven that the staggered development method worked. We've gotten a lot more content. We've got a lot more interesting things happening. And it's because they've staggered the teams out so they're not stuck into 3-month cycles of release. Hanlon's Razor? Okay, Hanlon's Razor, yeah. Yeah, I agree online. Knowing how these things work out, I'm expecting a 320. I agree. I am also expecting a 320. A 320, a 321, and yeah, and that's it. Probably 320 and 321. That's kind of what they're doing though, Randler, because it's currently in, isn't 317.2 still in PTU? Then they already released a PTU patch. You already have a PTU patch for it, so yeah, they're definitely trying to improve 317.2 before they get into 318, because they know that's going to be there for a while. But the longer they work on 317.2, the less time, the longer it's going to take for 318 to come out, which means everything's going to get pushed back. Alan's Racer. Okay, yeah. Never assume malice when incompetence can apply. Yeah. I mean, I've already gone on the record saying that I think that, Dakota says, honestly, I don't mind more sub patches, 317.x and such. Yes, 317.2 had 3 different new patches again, which is things like JT, Siege of Origin, See No Threat are being run on the hot fixes too. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I've also gone on the record of saying I think the quarter 4 patch should be killed. I think CIG's quarter 4 patch is stupid. It's abusive. It's waste of time and money. It's a waste of resources. Don't put a quarter 4 patch out. Anything that can be in a quarter 4 patch can be in a Q1 patch of next year, and just use quarter 4 as a simple as a .x patch for the last patch. Hot fixes, small updates, nothing big. If you focus on your quarter 3 being your big patch, which you already do, CIG, then there's no reason for a Q4 patch being anything epic because you have much less time to work on that quarter 4 patch. So just let it be a hotfix patch, let it be a .x patch, and then just focus on a Q1 being better, improving that. A fixed time frame isn't good for your cycles, yeah. It's the one that has the most fixed time frame. because it has a time frame for what is it? Because there is a cutoff date. It has to be out by a certain date, which is terrible. So, what's a quarter 4 patch? So, CIG releases 4 quarter patches a year. They're the big patches. So, like for instance, the next main patch is 3.18. So, they had 3.17, which came out in April, and the next patch is coming out in 3.18, which is coming out in whenever. Fall is when it's coming out. The reason originally it was set for coming out in spring or in summer. Supposed to come out in like July, August, but they basically rolled everything they could into the 3.17.2, which is what we have now, and then focused everything else on 3.18. So normally we would have a 3.18 would have been the summer, and then 3.19 would have been fall, and then the winter would be 3.20. So usually have the big number patches on those quarters, and then you have the smaller patches, which are like .1s, the .x patches is what we usually call them, that are the ones that get released in between them. And right now, they almost never do 3 patches a year. Or they almost never do 4 patches a year. They almost always do 3. Because the last patch of the year, consistently, for the last 7 years, has either been delayed to the early January, so it's been in PTU. It has been not a new branch, but just a version of the old gate system, the quarter 3 patch with just new stuff added to it, or yeah, that's it, or just buggy. "41 days? Never. Exactly. So, like, for instance, 3.18. Oh, 3.18 is estimated to drop in 41 days? No. Oh, no. No. Absolutely not. We're not going to see a 3.18 drop in 41 days. We might see an Evocati launch in 41 days. Maybe. But we're not seeing a 3.18 launch. 3.18 is not coming out until November. Like IAE is what you'll see it. CIG has never hit the dates that they usually set. They've never hit the dates that they set. So, and that's the problem, is that like Q1 patch should be released at the beginning of March. Because that's the end of March, beginning of April. That's the end of Q1. Right? It never releases in that. It releases in April or May. It might hit Evocati or PTU by then, but then it takes a while for them to fix it. Same with Q2, same with Q3. They always overshoot their mark by a month or 2, which means that quarter 4, which has the most tight schedule that you cannot overshoot, will always suffer. Content-wise, it'll suffer bugs or other issues because you're just cramming something in that you can't test. The Ion. Anyone here upset about the Aries Ion Nerf? It's because of Q4. They tried to fix it in Q4 and didn't have enough time to fix it because they introduced it so late in the Q3 cycle patch. They didn't have time to balance it, and so they decided to just do a quick fix nerf that would fix the problem while they were out in holiday, and now they don't have time to go back and balance it because they've got other things to do. So if you disliked the Ion's complete overly harsh nerf, blame the Q4 patch cycle. Yeah, CIG, December 20th, 2000, whatever. Here's a patch. We'll fix it January. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. See you next year. Yeah. We need a trimester system, I think. Though I do like the idea of a semester system there, Dakota, where we have 2 major patches a year and then 2 minor patches in between. I can always rely on dates to be incorrect. So in that way, dates are 100% likely to meet my expectations. But forecasting such high numbers of features and content ships and other stuff has to be extreme. It's damn near impossible. But the longer they do it, they should have a better idea of how long something should take in general. And they have been getting slightly better at their predictions. But at the same time, there's a pattern with Q4 patches, and it meets the same fucking pattern every year. And if a dumbass like me, who does not make games, has not worked in the games industry other than having a passing curiosity and then doing this kind of stuff, can tell you that Q4 patch is going to suck every year, then maybe you should reevaluate your quarter 4 patch. Yeah, Farisol knows this. Unstable patch, but hitting your time limit. Release PGU to all backers. Offer oops overtime to restart servers over the holidays. Merry Holidays. Yeah, they actually did that one year. Where they had people working over the holidays just to restart servers. Because they fucked it up that bad. The Q4 patches always have the added challenge of employees taking time off for the holidays. Yeah, that's the problem. They have 2 weeks off for the holidays. Oh yeah, semester is 2, trimester is 3, and quarter is 4. But I think I don't even know if we have a term for that. But quarters use a fiscal term, not a, and the other ones are different. So dates are only numbers. God. Have I ever told you the definition of insanity? Yeah. I think shifting the patches by a month to a month or a month and a half could help a lot, but they could have accounted for massive time around the end of the year somehow. Just do 3 patches. Do patch 1 sometime in spring, do patch 2 sometime in summer, and patch 3 sometime in the fall, winter. Done. Bingo, bango, check cash, you're done. Like, it's not difficult. You say, instead of saying quarter, you say spring, fall, whatever. That doesn't work for the Australians, but they would understand. They get it. 3 patches a year around 3 seasons. I knew there was going to be something with try 3, but I couldn't remember the word. It's been a while since I had English Education University. Okay, yeah. It's actually, I don't even think it's an English word. I think it's a Latin word, if I remember correctly. Maybe a Greek word. It's not an English word. It comes from another language that we stole. Because try is 3 in. No, it's German. Yeah, it's German. Try. I was trying to think of it. It's like quad. I think no, that might be German. Because people forget that English is a German language. Is it Latin? Because my German is rusty as hell. I don't know barely any German, but isn't it 1, 2, 3? So like that would make sense. A trireme, okay, yeah, it could be Greek. It's just maybe a fuck you word that comes from Proto-European, but the dry patch and the icy patch, 3 seasons. Yeah, there we go. Just call it the Microtech or the Art Corp, the Hurston, and the Microtech patches. Latin is correct? Okay. Dry, not try. Okay, dry. Thank you. There's this thing as an English word given English as an amalgamation of other languages. I mean, there's the original Anglish. There are words that are originally Anglish in origin that English still holds, but most of our words are either English, which is Proto-German, Norse or Scandinavian, mostly Norwegian, I believe, or Greek or Latin. Now, if you want to come to America, we got even more fucky words for you, because we have words that originate from Japanese, from Spanish. Oh, also French. Fuck, I keep forgetting. The French, there's also French words in English too, because the French controlled, well, the Normans, but still, controlled England for a long time too, so. Look, English mugs of the languages for words, yes. Eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, okay, yeah. Triannual would be 3 times a year? I think so, yeah. America, yeah. I forgot about trimesters. You're correct. We do have them in Dutch too, or they're less common. It's mostly quarters or I can't even say that. But so you can say English was already international long before the internet internation before the internet exists. Yeah. Holds up knife. Give me your dictionary. Well, it's because England is a crossroads, has always been the crossroads of many different empires and cultures have filtered through it from, because the original English language is actually not English, it's German, from the Angles tribe in Germany that eventually settled England. The original language is Celtic, and, well, Gaelic, not Celtic. Because Celtic is another part that came later, but Gaelic is the original language, which still exists in England, and there are some Gaelic words in English that have been taken from it, but not much. Plus, you had the Roman language, which was there as well. Latin was in the region well before Angles showed up. Then the Angles started adopting a bunch of their language aspects into their language. Then the Vikings showed up. The Scandinavians, the Norse showed up and started raiding and then settling down. So a bunch of fucking Norse words got added into our things, like thing. People don't know that thing is a Norse word that was adopted by English. And then the fucking French, the Normans, who spoke French, invaded England and conquered it, and then spread French language amongst the nobility. So French and French root languages are all over High English, and Low English tends to be more, Germanic in its origin. So much of the more formal words actually have French or Latin origins. And then you added even more bullshit when England went around the fucking world and then it started gathering other words to add to its dictionary. Then America exists with the Spanish and the French, and then also encountering, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Filipinos, the Vietnamese, and incorporating words into those languages into America. Oh yeah, and the Dutch. We forgot about the Dutch, who also showed up and conquered England. Or the fucking Dutch showed up. Like it's bonkers how much English is just a patchwork of various different languages from around the world. Waiting on English to English dictionary. Yeah, no, a lot of English, American English is actually native. There's a bunch of native words that we use, and at least for our names of our locations, and like the Dakota itself is, I don't even believe a English word. I think it's taken from Sioux, I want to say. This is what I mean by we get into this, yeah. Everyone conquered England. Just the Germans sucked and failed. The Germans did conquer. That's their Angles, which was a German tribe. This just was very, very long time ago. We did, mostly because the Anglo-Saxons kept demanding stuff and trying to fight us in the waters. Well, it also helped that William of Orange was just please fucking come here. Like, we can't stand our fucking king. Please come here and fucking help us. Take over, king of. I guess it was Netherlands. So, well, was it Netherlands or was it Belgium? No, it was Netherlands. Yeah, it was in Netherlands. Flanders is, I don't remember. I know it was William of Orange was his name. And then England decolonized and spawned the Indian-Pakistani style relations and probably a couple of wars. Yeah. Are you saying the England is the world's bicycle? I'm saying England is everyone's grandmother. French is everyone's grandfather. And it helps that both of them, the Franks and the Angles, are both Germans. Which is the ultimate irony. Dutch, I think. But yeah, German ancestry. So you're saying that England is the lingua franca of today? Yeah. Yeah, Seattle. I mean, obviously, things like a lot of our state names are legitimately just native names for those regions or from native languages. My favorite is that you could say adios or sayonara to any English speaker and they know what you mean. Any American English speaker would probably pick up exactly what those words are. And they're used as often as the words that they are translated in their own languages for. Sorry, we're going into languages. Did you know that Star Citizen has all the alien languages of Star Citizen also are learnable and speakable? You should go follow Jail, who is another fantastic content creator who helps me out with the Lore Citizen episodes, who does a lot of those things as well. Sometimes very poorly taken words. Yeah, a lot of the words are completely butchered. But I know that because living in Texas, the Texans take Spanish as a suggestion rather than a language. Not in the language itself, but all of our words for creeks and mountains and rivers and cities and streets, all of those that are based in Spanish are completely butchered beyond belief. Vanduul have written languages, and there is a spoken language, but I don't know if you can learn it. I live in Austin, so there's one place in Austin that everyone who lives in Austin has probably heard of at least or been through, which is MANCHACA. MANCHACA, which is in Austin. Guess how it's spelled? It's spelled MANCHACA, but they call it MANCHACA. Guadalupe is Guadalupe. Hey, there's a fellow Austinite there, Butcher. Yeah, MANCHACA. Yeah, but it's MANCHACA. That's what it is. Fucking mispronounce MANCHACA, but heaven fucking help you if you mispronounce Pflugerville. Hold on, let me show y'all. Pflugerville. Loved it mostly. Austin's a great place. That's a town. Yeah. This is where Schlitterbahn is, which is our local water park. No, Pfizer is from I think it's from Pfizer. Oh, are you talking about Pfizer? I think there's. I'm trying to remember. I'm thinking of. Oh, what the fuck is the beer? I've been so long since I've had like beer, so I can't remember the name of it. There's actually a German named beer in Texas, which is pretty popular. Yeah, Pennsylvania Dutch is actually German. Yep, we know. Because Deutsch is, and they just change it because Americans butcher everything. Massage and sausage. Shiner, thank you, Shinerbach. Which is from another city in Texas called Shiner. Can you tell we had a lot of Germans in Texas? Oh yeah, we pronounce a lot of stuff. Yeah, we say Gouda in America. When I was in Denmark, everyone asked me why Americans call Danish call pastries Danishes. I don't know if is that also a British thing. Real quick. It was a concept that was brought to Denmark by Austrian bakers, where the recipe was partially changed and accommodated by the Danes for their liking. It has since developed a Danish specialty. So effectively, they are basically the types of sweets we have is because Danes invented them in the US. The Danish, which, let me look it up. As y'all don't know, a Danish in America looks something like this. This is a cheese Danish. I'm gonna mute it if you can.
I'm making cheese Danishes.
Stuff like that. And it has to do with like how it's leavened and stuff like that. But likely it was just because we got it from Danish immigrants who then brought it to America, and then we just call it a Danish pastry. There's a region in Texas where a form of German is still spoken, even Germans don't use. Yeah, there's a part in there's a place in Appalachia, in the eastern United States, and around Tennessee, North Carolina, that they speak Old English. The language they use is so old, and they've been so isolated that their language pretty much has been unchanged in their dialect since their first ancestors came there when Shakespeare was around. And much of Appalachian dialect and culture, not culture, but dialect and speaking is actually closer to Old English than modern English is from England. So, what I'm trying to tell you is that Shakespeare had a drawl. He sounded like, to be or not to be, that is the question. 'Tis nobler in the mind. And I'm not even shitting you. That is legitimately, there is a place in Tennessee where people go to study, like actors go to study Shakespearean dialect and how they spoke. This stream took a detour. Welcome to the office hours. We go off on weird stuff. Like a lot of us Americans don't have good control over our mouths. I grew up surrounded by multiple languages, but trying to get my parents or their friends to be able to pronounce some names makes me facepalm every time. We just don't have a lot of experience with other languages. Like I grew up speaking English and un poco de español, pero no es. I used to be fluent, pero no más. Se habla en la lengua, pero no es. I want to say recuerdo, but I don't know if it's right or not. Práctica, mucha. So. All right, let's get back to the topic. Sorry. How about that PAS then? That's a good question. PES, persistent entity streaming. When do y'all think it's going to come out? Because I have a very nasty feeling that 318 is going to be a lot longer than anyone imagines. I gesture a lot, so I gesture more like an Italian. Hey, Liquid Wind, how you doing? Maybe IAE? Oof. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a quarter 4 patch. I really don't think. I think we'll have a small 3.18 dot whatever patch is what it'll be. So when will ships not blow up? Never. Your ships will always blow up. That'll just be harder for them to blow up in the future. And when that happens, you're going to... when that happens will be when they have internal components working and they have armor systems working, which both are still very... Armor systems haven't even been fucking discussed, and they only just started prototyping internal systems, so... I speak Peggy Hill. I do. I do. I speak a little bit better than Peggy, but not by much. That is true. 318 tomorrow. That's confirmed. Confirmed. I have a very nasty question about PES. Why was the item being there after they chased down the server and then flew down the location a good thing? Why not when the server came back when they were standing next to the item? What are you talking about, Moriar? Oh, why was the item there after they crashed the server and then flew down to the location a good thing? Why not when the server came back where they're just not standing next to the item? Because it means that the status of systems persisted, but they don't have status persistence for players yet. So, for instance, you place something down, it will be remembered by the server. But remembering a player's position and where they are in geometry is tricky as shit. So it may be easier for the game servers or for the persistent entity streaming to memorize where everything is in the server versus a player. A player might be handled by a separate system. It may also be that that system that's in place wasn't in place when they did the testing. Isn't a play technically nothing more than a moving box? We're getting some weird esoteric shit. What is the Star Citizen equivalent of the Scottish, aka those batshit crazy warrior types that no one wants to fuck with? They're called the Bremen. They're Bremen. Oh, you're talking about a player. Isn't player taking more than a moving box? No, a player is an entity in the server. As a coder, entity with sub-entity. I think it's handled by a different system is the issue. So CIG is effectively layering system upon system upon system. In a typical game, you might have everything on one DGS, and then everything's handled by that DGS, and you deal with it. But CIG is trying to move everything as possible out off of the DGS onto other systems. So it may be that the player is handled by a completely separate location system from the entity system, because it's easier to allow players to be on a different system to allow them to stream in and stream out faster than having to do a bunch of entities. Moriar, I disagree with that. Every other MMO does that. It's not wizardry. I'm not trying to be a downer, but a player location is kind of ironed out. It's kind of ironed out mechanic. Not really. It sort of is, but not fully. The issue isn't can they do it. It's not a technical hurdle. It's because, like you said, a lot of other MMOs do it, which is fine. The issue is more an issue with the back-end services. They could either not have built that system quite yet for into the whole thing, and they had said basically the PES that they showed off was effectively a work in progress. It was the first test that they could see it actually work. So they just may have not built that system in yet. Or it could be that they're trying to completely separate the DGS, the player's position from the persistent entity streaming. It's a lot more complicated than just WoW had it, why doesn't CIG have it? It's a lot more complicated than that, because it could be that they let them in there, but you know. FYI, DGS is dedicated game server for something similar. Yeah, DGS stands for just the game server. I feel like with PES and Bounty Hunter 2.0, the server will be able to track a player better. So maybe we'll get to an option to log out somewhere and come back there, but that would be like meds. That would make the beds kind of void. Not really, because the concept of the beds was that if you logged out on a bed, your ship would disappear with you if there was no one else active. The beds were also kind of a way for logging out and not having to be persistent on the server. That was the original idea. Something often happens at CIG. They bring stuff where core background tech isn't done for. Yeah, they are. When like you see stuff that's added to the game, it's often cutting edge. They just finished it. They threw it out there. So there's a bunch of stuff that's not in place for the other aspects. So like, we don't know the details behind that test for PES, but my guess is it's either they didn't have the back end coding for player positions in yet for attached to the PES, or they're building a separate system for player tracking to make it more granular and more modifiable than the PES. I don't know the answer, because I always say I'm an idiot. I don't know fucking anything. I don't know anything, neither do you, unless you work at CIG. We can only best use what best we can see, and best I can see is that's not as much of an issue, because CIG literally will throw shit right off the pan into your hands, super hot and broken. True, but didn't they say now that it will be loaded when nobody else is around, but come back and someone enters that area? Yeah, I think so. But there's a lot of questions about the PES system, because there's a lot of edge cases which CIG hasn't seemed to work out yet, which is what happens if I crash, my game crashes and I'm stuck in game? Will my player persist? If they do persist, will they persist? And will they get streamed out and then stream back in if somebody else comes by? Will I be affected? My player be affected? Will it become a quanta? How will it work? And why do beds matter? And the best I can tell is based off of their gameplay design ideas, the beds were designed for safe logout, where if you were in a bed and you were in your ship and you logged out, then the ship would despawn in space, so you wouldn't have to deal with it. But in the past, they've also mentioned that if you logged out without a bed, then your player would turn into an NPC, and that NPC would then try to fly the ship back to its location. Meaning you could load back in and suddenly be in the nearest hospital. Yes. Where's the AstroPub headed for drinks on Friday anyway? It'll be in Hurston. I don't know the exact location yet, but it'll be in Hurston. Have there been any news about Theaters of War in recent months? No. Nothing. The last we heard was that Theaters of War is no longer being produced by Firesprite, but is being produced by the Arena Commander team. So there's a team that they created that's just for Arena Commander, and we know what they're working on right now, which is a revamp of the Arena Commander, of all of Arena Commander modes, and a revamp of all of the racing modes. So that seems to indicate that they're not working on Theaters of War right now. Best example I know is the very first Aurora advertisements. You need more cargo, swap out a module. You want more missiles, swap out the module. Problems with the Aurora, but not until now. Missiles do work. You can swap out the missiles now. You could swap out the missiles a while ago, but the cargo stuff isn't added. But yeah, that shows more of the intended design rather than the than what's available right away. I don't use anything for my beard other than normal like face soap and stuff like that. I should use more products, but I try to keep it trim because if it gets too long, my beard looks weird when it gets long. So. I don't think Theaters of War is dead. I think Theaters of War is just waiting for better server stability. What would happen to your loot then? Your outfits, your loadout? Yeah, I hope CIG will figure that one out. I don't want to be killed off while offline and lose my pretty armor. I mean, the CIG wants you to have to risk that. So if you're logging off, you got to make sure you're in a bed or you're in somewhere safe. Should load up a backpack with beers and booze from a bar and open up the Connie Phoenix bar. That's the plan, Max. I'm going to open up my 600i to people. I have a bunch of beers in it still. And I'm going to open up for a little bit of light RP gameplay. So. I wonder if it would ever be possible for a disconnected player to be converted into Quanta, virtual non-rendered entity. Well, virtual AI, probably not a Quanta. And have their ship flown back to the last starport, being converted into a rendered NPC as they come around other players near spaceport. I don't think it'll be that. I think it'll be a virtual AI, but I think once they reach a certain place, they can happen. About save zones. A friend told me after release there will be absolutely no save zones anymore. Is this true? Safe zones. You mean like green zones? Sort of. They're going to turn them from being you can't shoot anybody to you are restricted. So, for instance, if you look at every landing zone in the game, when you go from the spaceport to the, or you go from your hangar to the spaceport, you always go through these giant metal tubes, or these giant metal kind of contraptions. That's security. Eventually, when you walk out of your ship on the hangar and you walk into the spaceport, you will have to check all of your weapons at the spaceport or leave them on your ship, and because you're going to have to get screened by security to go into the actual place. So unless you have maybe a license to carry a weapon inside that zone or have the reputation to do so, you won't be able to bring weapons. In some cases, you're likely not even allowed to wear armor in those locations, because why would you want to walk around in armor in a civilized location? So the idea being that they won't be enforced through arbitrary you can't shoot, but more gameplay will be added to it, which will also mean that you can do things like smuggle in weapons, use other routes to get past security, that sort of thing. Hey, Craiklin. How you doing? They're gonna turn green zones from sword and chains to pens and then swords. Yeah. Doing all right. Hopefully you're enjoying this splendid heat we've been having the last 3 months there, Craiklin. Question, while I'm not getting my hopes up, I'm really pulling for Gladiator to land in the Showdown top 4 this year. Has CIG ever commented on nearly every other ship that has at least one paint job option except the Gladiator? No, but I'm assuming that they'll get to it eventually. The Gladiator seems to be mostly a forgotten ship. I think it was originally intended for Squadron 42, but they seem to have moved away from it. The Retaliator is getting a big glow up, which tends, and we also have seen it in Squadron 42 trailers. So the Retaliator is definitely a ship that we're going to see in game. The Gladius, the F7A, those things will get the love. But because the Gladiator hasn't, I don't think it will see it in game. We'll probably see a Scorpius before we see a Gladiator. The end of accessing your inventory inside green zones, that will eventually happen. Eventually, the plan that CIG wants to do is have every little option, every little like location inside your inside a hab to have storage capacity. So if you notice when you're walking around stations and landing zones, there's a bunch of lockers. The original concept was you're going to go to those lockers and leave your stuff in the lockers before you went to security. So you walked up to a security with fully loaded with gear and weapons. You'd go rent a locker, open up the locker, put all your stuff in there, close the locker, then walk through security, then come back and pull it out if you needed to. But if you had a hab or an apartment or something like that, a place to live in that area, you could also use that as storage. Or if you had a hangar, you could use the hangar as storage as well. So the idea would be that you couldn't just globally pick up everything out of the inventory. You would have individual locations where you'd have to store your gear and then remember where it was and pull it out. That's why Knickknacks exists, because it's designed for that more extended period where you're like, honey, where is my super suit? You know? The Gladiator is a better ship than people give it credit for. The problem is that it's not a meta ship. And generally speaking, people don't fly anything but meta ships or ships that they really care about. And Gladiator isn't a meta ship, and nor is it something that gives a lot of passion for a lot of people. So. Just pop in and say hi. I'm enjoying this at work tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Good night. Well, you'll enjoy the little intro I did. Thank you, Jordan. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. What are meta ships? These are ships that are designed, or they're not designed, but they happen to be the top tier of ships. They work the best in whatever field they are. Mining, salvage, cargo running, combat. These are the ships that are the best of the best ships that are heads and shoulders above everything else in the game. There's no reason to not use them because they're just that good. Like the Hurricane. If you have two people and you're both combat pilots, there's no reason not to use a Hurricane. There's legitimately no reason not to use a Hurricane. It's just that good. But if you're solo, something like a Gladius, well, I guess a Gladius might be the Arrow. I don't remember what it is anymore, but there are ships that are the best ships you can use, and using anything else is going to put you at a detriment. Whereas, like, for a long time, the Caterpillar was the best trading ship because it had the most cargo capacity. So people just use that. Why would you use anything else other than the Caterpillar? The Mole doesn't get a lot of love because it's not very effective, but if you can use it solo, you can do pretty well. But the Prospector can also do pretty well as well. So honestly, it's a fantastical, capable fighter with two-man. It just needs to be atmospheric flight on it. Something is wrong with its maneuvering thrusters, almost like they're working against each other. I think the whole revamp of the aerodynamic controls, the aerodynamic flaps, the flaps system that they're adding in should help. Do you think CIG will sell LTI equivalent of apartments? Yes. Do I want them to? No, but they will. And please bring back its ability to swap out the stock 5+5 torpedoes. I'd love to see the ability to swap out the torpedoes for bombs. That would be a great addition for that thing, but I think all bombers should actually have gravity bombs as well. Are there any ships that use the size 7 torpedoes? No, not that I know of. There might be in the future, but not that I know of. Or they're only vehicle in the ballista ground field. I don't know if it's a size 7 torpedo. I think it's just a size 7 missile. The difference between a torpedo and a missile is that a missile is faster and is not designed for like anti-capital ship stuff. The size 7 on the ballista, I believe, is still a missile. It's a big honking missile, but it's going to be faster and more maneuverable than a torpedo. Control surfaces. Thank you, Neighbor. Prospector is the meta mining ship. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, the Prospector is a meta mining ship because it's cheap. You can do anything with it, and if you have the right stuff, it's fine. The aerodynamic revamp, what will happen to brigs like the Aurora and Connie and the Nomad? Not much. Those ships will probably not change much, but the other ships that are more aerodynamic will become much better for people in flying an atmosphere. Like you'll use a lot more, you'll be using a lot less fuel, so it'll be a little bit better. Size 4s and below are missiles, if I recall correctly. I don't remember if that's the case. I think you can get up to like size 7 missiles, size 5 missiles as well. It's just torpedoes are slightly different. Do you think the new atmospheric flight will affect missiles? Yes, probably. Not directly, but eventually. No problem, TS Forest. Let me look it up real quick. Get away from me, cheese Danish. I'm hungry. Don't do this to me. This is size 7 missile, yeah. The Hellion 7 is a size 7 missile. Carrying a sizable payload and advanced heat-seeking sensor suite, the Hellion missile from Talon can be effective against aggressors of all sizes. It's the ballista. It's the missile on the ballista. It's considered a missile, not a torpedo. And there's the Scimitar 5, which is a size 5 missile, not torpedo. How is CIG going to slow down ships that dogfight? That's so dogfighting is better. There's no indication directly of how they're going to do it, but they're probably going to decrease engagement ranges, meaning that the further you are away, the more you're going to miss, the faster you're going. They're also going to probably implement systems that'll make it so it's difficult to escape a dogfight, because right now you can just escape if you want to. Interesting how CIG classifies missiles as torps is messy. All of CIG's classifications are messy. That is literally, they are a messy bitch. That is CIG is messy bitch. That is just the definition of CIG. Their ships make no goddamn sense in terms of their classification. They change every year. So. What creatures would you like to see in a planet you like in the future? New kind of, not non-concept, I mean. I'd love to see more predators and prey. I'd love to see more smaller varmint style, something like moles or shrews or cats or like smaller sized creatures which you might encounter. Rabbits, that kind of thing. Raccoons, yes, space raccoons. Sloths. What's my favorite one? Possums. Possums are cool little dudes. And possums can't have rabies. Many people don't know that. They're chill as fuck and they can't have rabies. I don't know anyone that hates them. Vermin, thank you. In every game, real-world cannons are slow, but long-range, while repeaters are fast and short-range, just not in Star Citizen. Cannons are slow in Star Citizen, and repeaters are faster, but I think cannons used to be longer range than repeaters. I think they changed that, if that's sense. I mean, when can I have a space cat? Well, there is the flat cat, which is in lore, but it's just not in concept. Which is an actual, I believe the flat cat exists in Star Citizen lore, but it's actually a reference to another character, another species in another sci-fi. Yeah, most of the possums I'm talking about are North American possums. And they eat ticks, yeah. North American possums are cool, chill fuckers. I want Earth cat, not like alien cat. Yeah. Well, the question was aliens and stuff like that. Microdep beavers making dams on rivers. I've been meaning to do this at some point. I'm probably going to do it as an aside next week, or as an aside, as a capsule next week, which is the real reason why how CIG plans on balancing fighters in the long term, because a lot of people don't realize this. People go, well, how are you going to make light fighters worse without screwing them over entirely? And the answer is range. Light fighters don't go very far. Stanton is a very small star citizen. It is below average compared to every other star system in the game. Pyro itself is 3 times the size of Stanton. 3 times. So travel is going to take a lot longer, and if you don't have the right ship, it's going to be very difficult to traverse larger systems. Fighters can only be will only be able to be functional in with extensive logistics trains. So like a liberator, an anvil liberator, would be something that a fighter could use, but you could only do maybe 1 or 2 at a time, just because of how often you're going to have to replace parts, refuel, all that sort of thing as it goes through, or repair things, because those things are going to be high performance and high maintenance. We call them below average. I mean, yeah, if you put like people are like, oh, what's the purpose of having these slow ass, like lower than C quantum drives? They're all really efficient. Like a D or E, I don't know if there's an E, but I know there's a D. Like the D grade quantum drives are incredibly efficient. So you can go very long distances and not drink any quantum fuel, but it's going to take you hours to get where you need to go. That could mean if you're going to pyro with your fighter, you could be stuck at the station entrance, with your ship because you can't be able to reach the first station or planet. Basically, without a support chain, you probably won't. People really are not prepared for what pyro is going to bring to the game. Pyro is going to be night and day compared to Stanton. You will not like pyro. And one of the things I saw someone earlier say, like, no one will go to pyro because you can't beat up on players, innocent players in pyro. And the answer is that's not really how. It's not really how that's planned. Because Star Citizen or CIG is going to make sure that the best profits to be had will be in pyro. And in the future, the best profits to be had will be flying through pyro. So if you're a PvPer, going to pyro will make it easier for your life because you won't have to worry about going to jail. You'll have much more experience and that kind of stuff. But in general, Star Citizen isn't a game. It's not a PvP game. It is a game with PvP in it. So you're more likely to encounter, you're more likely to make money and do missions and stuff like that in pyro than you are in Stanton with those pirates, and it would be easier to function. Pyro is not going to be an empty wasteland. It's going to be filled with various different factions, but they're all going to hate you unless you absolutely do work for them. So it's going to be a very filled wasteland, filled with danger. Yes, pyro will definitely have places to mine. It's just a very dangerous location. You're likely going to experience the best trade, the best salvage, and the best mining in pyro, at least initially. And then they'll tier it as they get more systems out. They'll tier it so it's not as good, but pyro does have trade routes to Castra and Nyx and several other systems in the verse. So it might be a good shortcut with some dangers added to it. Is the wormhole to pyro a fixed location? We don't really know. There is no definitive lore on how jump points work. There is some discussion about making jump points a little bit more fluid, where they don't always open up in the same location or exit in the same location. But we do know that they build jump gates for some reason. If you talk to Algrid has the theory that jump points are. Al and Execute have a theory that the size of jump points indicates how stable the jump point is. So a large jump point would be a jump point that's stable, or a jump point that has a gate built into it to make it stable. So the gates themselves could possibly stabilize that jump point a little bit better. That means the PvP is part of the game because Star Citizen has a PvE background with rules and law. That means it's not the best PvP experience with this kind of game. No, you're not going to... my favorite way of explaining is that Star Citizen is a game with PvP in it. If you come to Star Citizen being like, oh, I'm good, we're going to go PvP hunting, we're going to have a great time. No, you're not. Likely, even with full population servers, with everything, you're probably, and more systems, you're probably not going to experience PvP all the time. But you will experience it enough. And there will be such problems. There'll be enough problems with things like logistics, things like distance, lots of other issues that will hamper your ability to have PvP effectively. PvP is going to have a lot more weight and meaning in Star Citizen than it does now, because death is going to be more painful. Losing your stuff's going to be harder. It's going to cost you a lot of money. And if you're a criminal, especially, you're going to not be able to live in civilized society. You're going to have to be out in the fringes, which means it's going to be more difficult to travel to those locations. You might have like PvPers who come into Stanton, fight, and then retreat back to Pyro to try to escape the law. But that means they have to figure out how much fuel they need to travel that whole distance and have the logistics to do that in the first place. Coming from EVE Online, fixed gates equals Camperfest. Exactly. That's a problem that I've had as well. It's one of the reasons why I don't think the idea of having Korea as the only place you can hack away your crime stat is a good idea, because it will encourage camping. I think what my preference is having fixed gates are a great idea, but because they always have the gates, the jump points are like rivers. They have tributaries that pop off of them all the time. And my hope is that the tributaries aren't boring game over screens, because having you just die for hitting the wrong tributary is not interesting. But having you thrown out in a completely different location with a bunch of damage on you, that is more interesting. You survive, but at what price? You get out and you manage to avoid the main entrance, but now you're on the other side of the system, so now you have to figure out how you can get there. Yeah, that's the problem with games like EVE, where PvP becomes such a huge part of the game that nobody's going to go to PvP areas because they're just going to get ganked. So likely what you'll see is, if you're a PvPer, you're going to operate out of a place like Pyro, and you're going to raid into places like Stanton and come back to Pyro. But you're going to need a lot of planning and preparation. A solo PvP player is going to have a very hard time in this game, because the game is not built around solo play. It allows you to play solo if you're good, or if you have the right money or the right connections with NPCs and such, but it's a multiplayer game. It's designed and encourages you to play with other people. So we don't know what happens when you fall out of a jump tunnel halfway through this between the systems. There's no definitive answers, but the things they've mentioned in the past is that you insta-die, or you're stuck between those two and you can't escape. So you basically are just stuck in space. Both of those are very, very boring gameplay loops, in my opinion. But those are things that Chris have said in the past. PvP bounty hunting is going to be pretty amazing and should lead to the most PvP in game, I think. Well, PvP bounty hunting is going to be a lot more complicated. As say a Dark Spike, it's a lot more complicated than people realize. PvP bounty hunting is going to be a lot more akin to like a gameplay mechanic. It's like PvP bounty hunting is going to be difficult, because you're going to have to track the player down and not kill them. You're going to have to disable their ship or find them when they're out of the ship, knock them out, drag them back into a cargo pod or to like a holding cell, and then fly them physically back to the location. Yeah, that's the problem. Right now, that's going to be impossible, because people will just combat log if they can. There's a lot of other issues that they haven't got into, but that's the plan. So people say, oh yeah, that sounds great. It's going to be great fun. No, it's not. It's going to be the most tedious, mind-numbing experience, and you're going to get literally no money for it. Barely anything for it. That's what I mean by like the missions that are based around PvP are going to be, and then PvP in general is going to be some of the most asinine experiences you will have. Because CIG is not building this game around PvP. They're building this great game around PvE with a multiplayer co-op experience with PvP as an option. Concord is for revenge, not protection. Old Eve saying. They have a very uphill battle to make a PvP fun PvP missions. A very uphill battle. Outside of maybe events where they intentionally funnel people to locations, it's going to be very difficult for them to make PvP an engaging experience beyond what we have now. And as they add more game systems, game layers, your typical PvP player is not interested in long-term logistics. They're interested in pew pew, you're dead. Let me get some cool content where I'm going and hunting other players down. But in reality, it's going to be 17 hours of tracking and planning, and you'll feel accomplished if you do it, but you also feel angry when that player just combat logs and you just fucked. Or they off themselves, rather they jump off a cliff to kill themselves rather than get captured by you, because then they can get respawned back at another bed. So that's the problem. CIG's got a massive uphill battle to make that fun. And it's just not going to be fun, I don't think. I think it's, at the end, you're going to see a situation where PvP is going to be interesting in some cases, but in limited use cases compared to the PvE experience. How do other games handle combat logging? Timers. Combat timers or just logout timers? An even bigger problem, as long as smaller GPU CPU combos can't do can't do more than 60 FPS at 1080p. There's no reason to try PvP. I mean, there is, and you can do that now with certain rigs, but that's also not an issue so much because you're going to see that the performance boost will happen when they finish implementing Gen 12 and Vulkan plus more other things will just improve performance. That's not an issue. That's an issue. That's a problem that's going to be solved the next year. It's already mostly solved with a lot of problems, a lot of people's stuff. So, are the new Volt weapons going to give us a means to incapacitate rather than kill bounty targets? We don't know. Volt is a laser weapons company, so I don't know if Volt is also a stun weapons. But yeah. PvP event organized by players with specific organized respawn location, like a bunch of Endeavor hospitals somewhere, lost and deep out in the range of PvE. Yeah, that would be more like a practice thing. I think what you're going to see with PvP is going to be more organic in the same way that a player group might control a location and lock it down with their forces, which is advantageous for trading. And so the only way you can, they make a lot of money because if you want to get fuel, you have to go to their trading outpost to get fuel. And if you say bring your own fuel, they might bully you into getting their fuel anyways or force you to get their fuel. Or they're sitting on a resource deposit that's very lucrative and they're making a ton of money. And then other players' organizations are going to have to organize and strike at right times in the right locations to be able to retrieve that from those other groups. That is more likely what you're going to see with PvP organized events. You are almost never going to see a lone fighter out in the black chasing down another fighter and having a dogfight. The stuff we have now is not a accurate representation of what PvP is going to be in the future, simply because it's missing several systems in place to allow the game to evolve to where it's going to be. Oh yeah, that's Siege of Orison is a completely different ball game though. Siege of Orison is just garbage in terms of performance, and the AI's performance is even worse. But that was never going to change. Siege of Orison is never going to do well until after Gen 12 implementation, after persistent entity streaming implementation, and after server meshing implementation. Those are the things that need to have those larger events to function better. They need those performance boosts in order to do that. Could PvP with light fighters stay the same in Stanton but change in Pyro? Possibly. Though I think you're going to see a lot less PvP in Stanton simply because the consequences for losing in Stanton are going to be far too high. The people who are going to PvP in Stanton are people who don't give a shit about their reputation, and they have good support, because by that time you'll also see things like the UEE or the advocacy responding to attacks, actively seeking and taking out criminals from regions. You'll have things like NPC bounty hunters who will show up and try to attack them. Those are things they've already started to work on earlier this year with the reputation system. So. A couple days ago, a group of friends and I did a ton of missions with FPS combat, and the AI was good and tough and reactive. It was such a good sign of what I hoped would be the norm, and things like server meshing start allowing servers to perform with higher player counts. I mean, we're pretty good performance for 100 players per server, but the issue is more decoupling the FPS, or moving as much as possible from the DGS to allow for higher tick rates. That's the issue. Second bad boy account, yes. But here's the thing, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just have a bad boy account and I'll just funnel money from my good boy account to my bad boy account so I can go have fun. You're really going to supply a terrorist with money and think there's not going to be a reputation hit for that? Really? Of course there's going to be a reputation hit for that. You're going to have to launder money or launder goods in order to get anything from a clean account to a dirty account. And that's going to require time, effort, and energy. You won't just be able to log on, cut a check for 5 million UEC, and send it to your cousin who's a criminal in Pyro without that ending up in the UEE's hands and you losing massive amounts of reputation. Because guilty by association will be a thing in Star Citizen. Eventually, there'll be regional shards, yes, but the whole thing is going to be. You want 500 players? You'll get 500 players probably by the time we have static or dynamic server meshing. We might have 200 players by PES if they can make it work. How gold will work in Star Citizen when you mean reputation could be important? Oh, guild. Yeah, it is. If you have a member of your group that's a pirate, that's also part of your guild, your organization is going to be guilty by association. Which meaning your guild will have a negative reputation because your organizations will have reputation in game too, which will then affect all the other members of that organization. They've already said that. The idea that a player's reputation will affect the reputation of the organization, and all of those members of their organization will also take a hit if you do that. So you have to be very careful of who you have in your organization. It's okay, I'll have a corporate overlords lobby the UE to have them declared freedom fighters. Yes, exactly. So when the player count went up, did the toxic global toxic global chat? Do you think CIG is going to work on that, and how? They're going to remove global chat. Hey, Uri, how you doing, buddy? I haven't watched it yet because I basically got home and ate dinner and went to streaming. So, but I'll watch that. Watch that a little bit today. For those of you guys who don't know, Uri the Smoke is the editor who's working with me on the content for the first episode and future episodes of the complete history of the verse series that I'm doing on the Astro Historian. So, if there's going to be a tax enforcement loop, there's going to be a money laundering loop, right? Probably. I mean, there would be some way of doing it if it's not automatically. That said, will there be an auto kick as soon as someone becomes a criminal? No. There might be. But I don't think, oh, you're talking about an organization. I don't know. They haven't had any org tools. They haven't did any of that stuff. They've actually already talked about that several times in a couple of the updates about changing the chat system for the future. Because they're going to integrate the chat system from Spectrum into the chat system in-game. We don't know. They haven't talked about this, but my guess would be regional chat, where you have to be in, like you can be in a think Eve, a system chat or a local chat and that kind of stuff. Finally, com relays become more than just crime stat evading. Yeah. Nah, there doesn't need to be a global chat. The global chat needs to die. The way it works right now, and I think it should be a Moby Glass app, if anything. You shouldn't have to see it on your screen. I would love to see them taking down comedy relays. Will turn off chat. That'd be a fantastic addition to the game. Do you think think how would it be fun to call your friend in a mobile apps with VoIP call in the character face animation from your phone like that? Above all things in Star Citizen, I despise the world chat. I would give them nothing. I give them nothing. Y'all make your own discords. Why have liability? Each system is going to have to be its own server because of the server limitations. Really, each system is going to be a series of servers. So the way that Star Citizen's network technology works, as far as I understand, best of my understanding, is that you have a shard. A shard is a region. Eventually, it'll be a region. So like you'll have the North American shard, which will cover all of people who are in the North American servers. Each server inside that shard is going to be meshed into a bunch of other servers, and together those servers will make up the entire shard. So servers are like little patches of quilt in a quilt blanket, and unlike with static server meshing, that's how they'll be rigid, but with dynamic, they'll be able to change the size and scope of these servers, what they're covering, on a dynamic basis. So if there's nobody in that server, you couldn't have an entire system covered by one server. But if there's now 3 people in that server, you might have 2 servers, depending on how much system allocation they need, which makes it a little bit more flexible, so you don't have to constantly host 10,000 servers all the time, just the ones that are being used by players. At worst, you might need several servers for one Kraken or whatever super ship. At worst, but it depends, because you got to remember that the reason why servers suck so much right now, and they're not as bad as they used to be, is not due to the servers themselves, but the entities inside the server. The more their entities are spawned, the more the server has to deal with, which slows down calculation and such. And the more you leave stuff on servers or you like clutter things up that can't be despawned, the more entities that server has to handle, and eventually it overloads and crashes. The goal of server meshing is to distribute that load of those entities over other servers. So taking Stanton and turning it into, say, 3 servers would mean that you have a third of the actual system is covered by one server. So that one server is going to run better than if it would had to deal with the entire server itself. If that makes sense. If it had to deal with the entire system. That one tiny sliver, that server is only going to cover a sliver of that whole system. Thus, it will be able to have less entities and perform better. The problem becomes when you get every player in the shard to that same server, what will happen? Because now you suddenly have an overload of entities that have to be processed. That's why dynamic meshing is important, because then you can split that server off even further and make the area that it covers smaller and smaller, which allows for more entities to fly around. And because everything's being streamed back and forth, it won't harm the gameplay as much. Is there any news on the animals? I love fauna. Yes, as of last month, they're working on the first animal behavior for a predator. But it's for Squadron 42, so we'll probably see it after the fact. Player server would be sick, but that 10 times what we have today, I don't know. Oh, obviously 1,000 times player server would be sick, but that's 10 times what we have today. I don't know if that improvement is possible. It should be. In theory, CIG could probably pump the current servers up to 200, 300 people. It's just performance would start to suffer. The more they improve, the more they optimize the game code, and the more they do, more they add new content, which should distribute that load, should allow for more and more players. Because if 1,000 players meet in dead space, nothing should happen. Yeah. The animals, I feel like, are probably, they're trying to get it in Squadron for some Squadron mission, and then they'll port that behavior over to Star Citizen, and then, my guess is something like a Pyro Crab, but we'll see. I thought we were getting the Boreal Stalker on Microtech. Yes, that was the original idea. But originally they were going to do the Blind Oni crab. The Xiphopod was supposed to be the first creature. Then it was going to be the Pyro Crab and the Boreal Stalker, or the Boreal Stalker, the Yeti creature on Microtech, was going to be the first one. And now lots of talks of the Storm Walls being the first creature. So as you can see, progression. They're constantly changing their mind on that. So, though I wouldn't be surprised if CIG wants to, with 4.0, release animals, because again, Chris wants to do his best impression of a mic drop on stage. By the way, 4.0 is this. Fuck you, I'm out. It's a new system, new characters, new reputation. These new ships are coming in. Plus, we're getting animals. Plus, we're getting bounty hunting, plus we're getting everything else. You're welcome, goodbye. That's the kind of thing that Chris wants. Whether that's possible or not is still up for debate. Are space burritos made out of ranta meat? No, they're made out of Kazi Grazer meat. No yawning, I've chosen to refer for 2 more hours waiting for this 3D print to finish. Sorry, I'm probably wrapping it up here shortly, so we're, I'm already 3 hours in, so I'm probably going to kind of end this early. We kind of talked about everything already, so. Are you in the camp of full wipe when the beta comes out? Yes. I'm also in the camp that I don't believe beta is too far away from 4.0. I think 4.0 is going to be a very short-lived patch cycle, at most 2 years. 4.0 is going to come out, and then the 4.0 patch cycle will end when beta comes out. And I don't think there's much beyond 4.0 that they have to add fundamentally to the game to make it work. The biggest issue right now that's slowing down development is a lot of the pillars that they have built are not in place. And until those pillars are in place, it's very difficult to build items for the game that you don't have tools. You don't. It's hard to make something for the game when you don't know what you're building it for in terms of the back end. Once you understand how the back end functions, pretty simple. I'll be right back. Oh, did I turn off the sound effects? I'm sorry, y'all. No one spammed it though. Is in the stream? It shows the chat from Twitch and YouTube, I believe. Yes, it's both. Yeah, you'll see them. You'll see the chat here. This is both YouTube and Twitch. I'm streaming to both platforms. Mostly because everyone in Star Citizen streams both platforms and nothing's ever happened, so why not? And this is a great way of saying, hey, Twitch, I have a YouTube. YouTube.com/TheAstroPubLive. Hey, YouTube, I have a Twitch. Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. Join them. I also stream to both channels, usually for my gameplay as well. Though the gameplay streams get unlisted after I stream. So they're just mostly for fun. Very few people seem to watch me on YouTube when I play live, but I do play live. I'll be live again tomorrow at 8 p.m. My time, so 9 p.m. Eastern. So, and then on Saturday I'll be live at noon, hopefully. Will heavy fighters role overlap with the role of mid-sized gunships? No, because heavy fighters are going to be a lot more maneuverable than mid-sized gunships. Massively more maneuverable. And heavy fighters will require a lot less crew than a gunship will. Like to effectively run a trash can, aka the Redeemer, you need a pilot and 2 gunners, which is 3 people. To effectively run a Vanguard, you only need 1. technically you could use 2, but technically at that point you could also use 2 or 3 other ones for the Redeemer. I tend to use YouTube more because Twitch buffers too much for me. Yeah, that's the idea. It's that to give more options. Like, I have YouTube partnership, so I have YouTube subscriptions available. YouTube memberships available. I also have a Twitch partnership, which means I have Twitch subscriptions available. Both are paid ways that you can support the channel. You can just choose which one you want to use. And I also have a YouTube membership active on The Astro Historian. It's much smaller than my Patreon, but people seem to like that too. So, question. So I have an Idris and a Scorpius. When I fly my Scorp, what Idris is the Idris persisting somewhere without me? If I remember correctly, the Idris can land in some large hangars, but it may not, and may also have to dock, and then it has to stay at that dock. I think if you dock it, then it becomes safe. It may despawn if you're docking it. The only things that are fully persistent, I believe, is the Javelin. The Javelin is the only thing that remains fully persistent in game. So anything Javelin and above are fully persistent, so you can never log out with it. I saw that, Pappy. You have all 3 memberships. You're like a Pokemon master. You got to collect all the Paul Shelleys. AstroPub. So the gun and knife show went well. We did 12K in sales. We thought we'd clear 5K at most. Suppressors are a hot commodity. Well, aren't they technically illegal in some places? I know a bunch of people are trying to make them illegal. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's a bad idea. But for those of you who don't know, guns are loud as fuck. And a suppressed gun is not, it's not what, when you hear it in the TV shows and movies, it's like, pew, 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 pew. That is not what a suppressor sounds like. A suppressor sounds like, if a gun's like, boom, a suppressor's like, boom. You still hear it. It's still very loud, but it just doesn't blow your eardrums out every time you pull the trigger. So that's the argument I've heard for people saying make suppressors like, you know, don't make them illegal anymore, like legalize them, because it just makes it safer for sound pollution and stuff like that. Would you rather an engineer on an Idris or a Glad pilot in the same unit? Fucking engineer on an Idris, that's a lot more safer. Gladius is gonna die, pilot's gonna die a lot faster. .22 caps can be kind of quiet with a silencer. Yeah, but 22 is already kind of quiet. A 22 is like almost like a BB gun in terms of its sound. I mean, all guns are dangerous. Guns are tools. I live in Texas. Guns are everywhere, but they're tools. Most people are responsible with their guns, and they use them for tools, or they use them for protection, or they use them for shooting for fun. The issue is more how you use them and who can use them is the issue, rather than the guns themselves. Knives are dangerous as shit, too, but we use them for fucking cooking all the time. I'm not trying to get guns politics discussion. I just wanted to say we had a good person. That's fine. No, I was just mentioning it because Vader mentioned something about a move to like try to deregulate suppressors federally, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, because the way that it was pitched was more of the idea that instead of, because suppressors are not, they're not what people think they are in movies, so using them as just a means to suppress sound at ranges so you don't blow people's eardrums out is, you know, a nice little, it's like, oh, that's a good argument. Relax, said the captain. We're programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can't never leave. That's Korea. But have you ever tried an arclight pixel with a suppressor? That's the weird thing. You put a suppressor on a laser crystal. Subsonic rounds plus suppressor is silent as fuck. Yeah. You're not seeing much difference. It's just the difference between blowing your eardrums out and being like, what? Arm burst? I have to look that up. It's the German word for it. Oh, crossbow. In the US, we call them crossbows. Did not know that. That does make a lot of sense, though. That name in German makes a lot of sense. Armborst is in Sweden. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Well, it's like, what do you call a pineapple in most of the world? Anas. Everywhere else has some form of anas. Anas is what the word for it is. Fucking English is this weird shit where we call it pineapples. It's an anas. Everywhere is anas. Spanish is anas. It's Italian. I think even in many like Asian countries, it's still anas. Okay.
Ananas.
Ananas. There we go. Thank you. Ananas. Let's go with Italian.
Ananas.
Let's go with Latvian.
Ananaso.
Let's go with Norwegian.
Ananas.
Ananas. That's the name of it. It's a fucking ananas, not a pineapple. Like bananas, but ananas. Yes. In Japan, it's panapru. Let me hear that.
Ananas.
Japanese. Here we go.
Pineapple.
Okay. Yeah. It's just an English-fied word. Okay. Let's go with traditional Chinese.
Bolo.
Okay. Same. Let's go with Persian. No, it doesn't have that. Okay. Pashtu? God damn it. Urdu.
Innas.
It's fucking Urdu. It's the same goddamn thing in Urdu.
Piña.
Oh, piña, of course, is a little different. For sorry, we're getting back into the stuff. Yeah, pretty much everywhere. Let's say outside of the U.S. and like a handful of other countries, it's known as ananas. How about Swahili? Let's hear it in Swahili. I love doing this, by the way. Swahili. There we go.
Nanasi.
Wow, that.
Nanasi.
Nanasi. It's a lot. That's a lot more similar to anas than anasi than pineapple. And this is Czech.
Ananas.
Ananas. Let's see what damn it. I was gonna say Slovenian. Let's see what Darsh calls it. Serbian.
Ananas.
Let's go for Russian.
Ananas.
Let's go with Sudanese.
Danas.
That makes me think of that Star Trek episode when everyone gets space shrunk and Data loses his V card. Okay, I remember that. So no ananas on pizzas. No ananas on pizzas. Ananas is the scientific plant name for the plant pineapple. Yeah, which makes sense. You use the scientific name. The U.S. is weird. English is weird. Just call them ananas. A banana? Let's see this. The banana is a little bit different. Like I learned about ananas because I was kind of, it was like a factoid that someone told me, and I realized just how many people call it the same thing. Like in Italian, banana is
banana.
A banana. God damn. Could you get kind of more fucking okay? In Bosnian, it's
banana.
In Catalan, it's
Platan.
which is just the same as platan, platano in Spanish. In Estonian, it's
Banan.
In Filipino, it's
Saging.
you're getting to places where it might be a little bit indifferent. In Greek, it's
Banana.
in Arabic, it's no connection.
Banana. Muzon.
Oh, it's muzon. Okay. Question: what happened to the crossbow and Star Citizen? It's being worked on, but they haven't talked about it a lot. It's in the same place where Theaters of War is, probably. In space, it's Beltalowda. But yeah, ananas is that like weird thing where it's like so many people call it ananas. It's just weird because I think pineapple is originally, is it an American fruit or is it a Pacific fruit? Does Star Citizen have ananas? I don't know. They should. I know Minions from the movie. Banana. Yeah. Ropes plus crossbow and Star Citizen, both of this. And Filipino, it's piña. And in Japanese, it's like panaparu or something like that. And in Chinese, it's like bolon or something like that. It's Pacific, yeah. So like Indonesia, Filipino, Maori, those languages would probably have a better, like similar language for it. Oh, so it's South American. Yeah, so that means it's whatever the fuck, whatever the fuck the Spanish called it. Because we don't know what the well, we probably do. If it's, we might have some like Incan names for it or something. Probably was traded up there. The Incan Empire never went down that far, but they definitely had trade routes. All right, y'all. I am getting tired. I'm going to go to bed. Thank you all for joining us for this almost 4-hour podcast stream. I'll be back tomorrow with another bar stream from the fields of Hurston. And then last week of the month, I'm going to probably, so like next week, not this coming week, but next week, I'm probably going to do a smuggling stream on Friday rather than do the bar streams. I'm going to try to do the bar streams 3 times a week, three times a month, with just an off month, a day every so often. So you can come by, role play a little bit, grab yourself a drink, come hang out, talk, that kind of stuff. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow. Then on Saturday, we'll have a stream plus Captain's Table, which is going to be with HC Vertigo and Dog Demon. So it'll be an interesting discussion. I don't know what we'll talk about yet, but we'll talk about something. Probably a little bit of the controversy, but also, 317.2 and its sort of situation. And Sunday I'll be doing another expedition. So I'm going to try to get enough people. If you're in lore, if you're in the league, please be prepared, because we're going to go on another relic hunt starting on Sunday. So join us for that. And like I say every night, hope to see you someday in the black.